This episode is brought to you by United Airlines. When you want to make the most of your vacation, book with United. They're an airline that cares about your travels as much as you do. United is transforming the flying experience with Bluetooth connectivity, screens, power at every seat, and bigger overhead bins to help fit everyone's bag. And with their app, you can skip the bag check line, get live updates, and more. Change the way you fly. Book your next trip today at united.com.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least that was the plan. Except now the Dastardly Desk Clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want your connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
Alrighty, guys. Bobby Roast Beef here. Jigs and Bigs. We have one hell of a show for you guys this week. This week in the beef seat, we got Justin Makin, who is a guide in Central Florida, which is, I'm going to tell you right now, it's good people to know. I mean, 100%. Like, if there's someone out there that's catching big fish and you live somewhere in the country where you got to shut it down for a little while, make some plans and go to Florida. That's what they say. Go south, my friend. We also have a great conversation here. I had one hell of a week on the water. Joe is with us, and we're going to dive deep into that whole conversation about Bassmaster and the Elite Series and the entry fees and all that kind of stuff. You don't want to miss out. We have a great one this week. We also have an FTG coming out of New Jersey with one of our listeners. You guys do not want to miss out. We have such a great show lined up for you. Go ahead, grab yourself something to enjoy right now. I'm certainly enjoying something, and we will see you with more Jigs and Bigs right after this. So Joe kind of jumped into the live stream here and got himself a little bit of a treat, if you will. What did Joe get today? Well, so as I set this up, I decided I'd get StreamYard set up nice and early. And you know, Bobby Roast Beef has one day off these days. One single day off for the foreseeable future, Saturday. So I rolled out of bed nice, bright and early at 6:30. I brewed myself a pot of coffee, and I busted out the bottle of Smuggler's Notch maple cream liqueur and started just adding to my my coffee cup this morning. And I'll tell you what, it feels like fall in New England. It tastes like fall in New England. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you've ever taken a shit drunk, but it's fun. I highly recommend it.
Wow, that's weird. I don't know if I've ever done that.
Really? Oh, I recommend it. It's great.
Or if I have, I just don't remember
that
it.
Could be it. That could be it. Like, you know what it is? It's that morning shit. And I think that's what's, you know what I mean? Because
I think that's what gets me.
I'm rarely drunk in the morning. You know what I mean? Rarely.
Sure.
And I'm probably not going to be too terribly drunk right now. Todd Sefton's dying over here right there. It's fucking great. We have some good shit happening this week. We really do. So we're going to have that conversation about the whole Bassmaster Elite Series and the entry fees and everything, and kind of the hot takes on that.
Yeah.
I will say, I think the conversation has died down after that initial first week. I haven't noticed a whole lot of buzz going on.
No, I haven't either.
I feel like when it comes to fishing and like these headlines that get everybody all riled up in the tournament world, I feel like we're seeing the 24-hour news cycle.
Yeah, and not only that, dude, there's been such like big and like I guess like kind of game-changing news coming from like the fishing world the last like month or two that this one's like kind of like
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we went through the, all the forward-facing sonar shit that, got everyone's panties all up in a bunch. This one's just kind of like, whatever.
Yeah. I think
we just finished an election, so I think everyone's more on that than they are anything else.
Dude, the fucking week this week was so fucking weird.
Yeah.
It really was.
Yeah,
like,
it was.
So my work schedule, like, and I think I mentioned this before, but to put a little bit of like salt seasoning on it. I just worked 6 gigs in a row. Which is, I love my job. And trust me, I know, like, I'm one of those, like, I was talking with Todd before we started to stream. Todd Sefton is telling me, he's like, I just got done a 12-hour shift. He's like, only 2 shifts a day. He's like, and I got to drive an hour and a half to get there. I was like, I hope the pay is decent. And, you know, I mean, Todd's a professional. He does his shit and makes things happen. So that's a beautiful thing. But it's just, like, I've got 1 day off right now, and I'm going to enjoy it. Goddammit! So when we're done fishing, or when we're done with the show, I'm actually going to go throw the boat in the water for 4 or 5 hours until it gets dark now, because it gets dark at dinner.
Hate
that. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to go on a tear on it like when Sean the Fisherman was on the show. That became a saga, week after week. I mean, it's just that it gets dark so.
It's so funny that we have this conversation, because it's not like it doesn't happen every single year. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but we still treat it and handle it as though it's never happened before. Yep. We're like, man, can you believe how dark it is? It's so early. Like, we didn't do it I didn't deal with that the last 39 years of my life.
Exactly. Oh, and by the way, you have a birthday coming up this month, don't you?
Dude, it's a week from today.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, week from today.
Okay, the big 4-0. All right.
Big 4-0.
So remember, listeners, if you're listening to the show this week, next Saturday is the 16th.
Yep.
Make sure to send American Vet Fishing on Instagram. Send him a DM wishing him a happy 40th. And
I appreciate that.
Buddy, it is all downhill from there, man.
Oh, dude, it was downhill from when I hit 30.
Well, it's funny because, it's weird because, shit's gonna start shutting down, and you're gonna, but at the same time, I feel my life got so much better after 40. I don't know what it was.
Okay.
If I just stopped giving a fuck about some shit and I was just comfortable, yep, that Todd Sefton says another one joins the club. Hell yeah, that's how it works. And Joe and I are in a lot of similar clubs. Now it'll be the 40-plus club. Although I will get to the 50-plus club in a few years, which fucking scary.
Yeah, you
That's
will.
fucking real scary. And then, we're both dads of daughters, so we got that going on. So we have a couple of clubs in here. Even though we might be somewhat different anglers, we're really alike in a lot of ways. Let's go ahead and do some housekeeping first before we get anywhere. There's a couple things I want to mention to you guys. Of course, this is the podcast Jigs and Bigs. We're here to have a good time and add some entertainment to your fishing content. So we hope to entertain you first and foremost, and it's all fishy stuff in a bunch of different ways. We feature a lot of guests on the show. We have some guest co-hosts every once in a while, and we also, what makes us really unique is occasionally we do the live show. So if you like what you're hearing right now, feel free to check us out. Check out the show every single Tuesday on your favorite podcast platform. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, or you've just got an Apple product, give us a rating and a review over there. We'd love to hear some feedback from our listeners, and that also really does help the show get into the ear holes of other folks. And we just want to kind of make your fishing life that much more fun and enjoyable. Of course, we are on social media, Jigs and Bigs and American Vet Fishing on Instagram. We both have YouTube channels. Go ahead and check that stuff out, as well as Joe is really active on TikTok as well. So American Vet Fishing on TikTok, and don't forget about Facebook. God, you can't. I know there's a lot of people avoiding Facebook these days. Facebook seems to be ruining relationships quite often, and it is still a cesspool. But there's a lot of you guys that follow on Facebook, and we appreciate it. So thank you. That was the wrong button, Bobby. Thank you very much. If you're really into this show and you love it so much, you hear us occasionally talk about folks in this live chat, this live stream. Those are our jig heads, the jig head fam. We love and appreciate our jig heads. They're the true supporters of the show. What they've done is they've become a jig head by subscribing over at Patreon. It's a $5 a month subscription, and it is a limited capacity. We only allow 100 jig heads maximum. What that gets you is some additional discounts and savings on some of our partners, which we try to extend that anytime we can to the jig heads, plus some specialty stuff as well. But the big one is that you get early access to the show during the recording, which means that you can you can give us some feedback while we record in the live chat. You also get special invites, like we invited the jig heads out to the trip to Cayuga for the slot limit tournament recently, and we it's a little community. It's sort of an extension of just the podcast, and we love it over there. So feel free to sign up and join us on our Patreon and become a jig head today. There is Jigs and Bigs merch available at jigsandbigs.com. We have all kinds of different merch. We've got, t-shirts and hoodies and hats and things like that with the logo. We also have some funny and interesting stuff over there as well. But we have some really interesting items, like we have a fleece vest from, I believe it's Colombia, as well as like some tie-dye stuff. And we have stickers available in 3 different sizes over at jigsandbigs.com. So you can order your Jigs and Bigs merch and show off that you love the show and you're supporting the show by walking around with our brand. I am working on some new logo stuff to kind of reflect different species, because we do have listeners that target all sorts of different stuff. We started as sort of a bass-centric show, and that's my favorite style of fishing, but I like to fish for other species with that. So you're going to get a little bit of representation in the trout and salmon world, and the toothy critters world, and all this kind of stuff, as well as the panfish world. So you'll be able to represent your favorite species and still represent Jigs and Bigs as well. As far as that goes, there's a couple of things that I want to discuss. And Joe, this might be some information that you might be interested in.
Okay.
One of these things is going to lead right into my week, but let's kick it off first and foremost. Cheryl Magditch, who runs the Western Mass fishing report for Jigs and Bigs, wrangles, herds cats, basically, is what I like to say. All of us that submit details to her, a lot of us are jig heads. We give information about what we're experiencing on the water. She puts together, and somehow out of the broken speech that comes from everybody via text, she makes it legible and puts it together on her website, northeastwildwoman.com, and it's there every single week, but in the majority of the season. We kick it off about like pre-spawn season, and then it goes all the way through summer, and then as fall it kind of starts to get a little bit spotty, as a lot of our reporters are in deer stands and things like that, which comes with the territory. But Cheryl hit me up the other week, and I was waiting for the right sort of time to kind of talk about this. Cheryl heads up the New England chapter of an organization called the American Daughters of Conservation. And Jigs and Bigs is all about women in the outdoors. We support women in the outdoors as much as possible, regardless if it's fishing or hunting. I mean, hell, even if it's camping and hiking, all that stuff. Ladies, get out there and enjoy the outdoors. This is your world too, American Daughters of Conservation is doing a fundraiser for the New England chapter. They have a shirt sale going on, and I'm going to put a link in the description of the podcast. That link is the storefront where you can purchase these shirts. They are $22 a piece. Some of the larger sizes that I'll be ordering are a little bit extra because, more fabric, it's an inflation thing. But it's a cool design. It's a military green t-shirt, which is right up my alley. It matches my truck. And then it's got black print on it. Says Northeast Chapter, the year they were established, and this cool graphic that's all the New England states with a variety of different game animals and fish displayed on there. Very, very cool. It reads Inspire, Hunt, Preserve, and then gives their web address on the bottom. I'm going to have that link available for you guys. Let's go ahead and talk about American Daughters of Conservation. You can support women who love the outdoors in the Northeast. Each shirt sold helps us grow our chapter funds to provide more education, events for our members, and expand outreach. American Daughters of Conservation is a group of like-minded women who love the outdoors. We have come together to conserve wild game habitat and educate women and young ladies in all things outdoors. ADC is a national organization in 40 states and continuing to grow every day. Our outdoor way of life is important to us and to our future generations. ADC is a nonprofit organization, which means that all proceeds go towards conservation efforts and member education, which is absolutely freaking awesome. And there's a list of folks that have bought like a bunch of different stuff. There's a lot of supporters in there. And I've had the opportunity to meet some of the other members of ADC New England, and they're just absolutely fantastic. We had a great conversation at the last Springfield Sportsman show, actually.
Yeah, we did.
That was awesome.
Yep.
And Cheryl's just great people. Like I can't say enough good stuff about Cheryl. She's fantastic. And I'd love it if you guys went and support that shit. That would be great. And I'm going to be doing some supporting. Probably if they're not biting today, I'll probably be making an order from the boat. Oh, my goodness. So Joe, you've been gone for 2 weeks.
I'm back, motherfucker.
You are so back. Let's discuss your fishy shit within that 14-day window.
Yeah. So go ahead.
I was going to say, I know that you had some work done on the boat. Has the boat returned?
The boat returned yesterday.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
So man, as for fishy stuff, there really hasn't been anything, unfortunately, because we talked. Work has been kind of crazy.
It's nuts. Yeah.
The election's over, so it's kind of quieted down. It didn't go the way we feared it would in the aspect of like people acting a fool after. So yeah, to give a little context to the audience. So with my job in the military, still being National Guard, we get called up by the state for, if there's any riots, protesting, stuff like that. So in my position that I'm in charge of essentially the logistical aspect of that. So getting people from point A to point B with the proper, equipment, all that. Yeah. So it's been, Bobby and I kind of talked here and there. I told him, I was like, dude, I might be gone for like a foreseeable amount of time.
Yeah.
So, and like the last election, but no, it was quiet. It was good. It's not a fishy week, but the boat went down. So I didn't tell you this. I don't know if I told you this. I was actually talking to Zach about it. So let's have a little conversation.
Okay.
So obviously, as we talked about, beat the boat up a little bit on Lake Ontario.
Yep.
That tournament day, I said it to Zach. I was like, dude, I burned through a lot of friggin' fuel. Like, I burned through a lot of fuel today, like more so than I thought I would.
Oh, really?
Like, I'm talking like a whole tank, you know what I mean? Like almost. And
wow.
Long story short, dude, I knocked loose a fuel line in the boat.
Oh, so it was leaking?
Dude, I went out of my house the other day not the other day, like last week. I forgot I didn't tell you this. And I let the dogs out and I go down. I'm like, I kind of smell fuel. I'm like, that's weird. It was like just a few days after I got back. I was like, that's kind of weird. Yeah. And in my mind, I was thinking the boys like spilt fuel filling up like the side by side or like the dirt bikes or something. I was like, oh, those little assholes. You know what I mean? And then I had to like walk behind the boat to open the garage to look and see what it was from. And I just so happened to look under the boat, dude, and there's a big wet spot. And dude, it was coming out of the drain.
Really?
Like the drain plug, yeah.
No shit.
Luckily, I brought it down. So Chuck Pippin, he's like, he's high up with Icon. He's, started basically helped design the boat and everything. Mm-hmm. And I was chatting with him about it. He's like, fuck, dude. He's like, get it to Richie like ASAP down at Thayer's. So I did that. And dude, it just like, new boat. Still figuring itself out.
Sure,
and
yeah.
And it just kind of not the big waves must have knocked something loose. So it took them like 2 seconds to fix it.
Yeah. The hardest part is identifying it,
Yeah. Luckily it was quick, but they had it for like a week and a half because I was like, dude, I tell Mario and Richie, I was like, I don't know when I'm going to be able to come back and get it. They're like, yeah, no problem, dude. And they actually did a couple other things like in the there was actually, so you guys know I have that screen on there, and there was actually a software update it needed. So they did that for me and shit, and took it out on the water, make sure that was all good to go.
Yep.
And so I went and I took yesterday off and went and grabbed it and picked it up, and she's back. She's back home. Hopefully I'll get her out tomorrow. The only thing that sucks is, you and I talked about it today. Yeah. They're starting to draw down the lakes around here.
That's rough.
So I gotta start kind of chasing water a little bit to where I can put the boat in. But yeah, dude. Meg had her birthday the other day, so we celebrated that, and yeah, our birthdays were only 10 days apart, and yeah, dude, it was aside from that, it hasn't been fishy. I just want to get out a couple more times before I put her away for the year.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least that was the plan. Except now the Dastardly Desk Clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want your connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.
That's the name of the game. I'm considering that, and you know, when I got my boat, I was like, first question I asked Matt over at Hank's was, dude, do I have to winterize this? Because I don't want to go through this whole process and then decide like in, you know, late February I'm going to like Alabama. You know, for this something comes up and I'm able to use it, and then I got to come home and like re-winterize or anything like that. He's like, no. He's like, end of season, change your oil. He's like, you know, and just keep it dry, cover it up, do your thing.
Yeah,
and
that's
then,
the biggest thing.
Yeah, he's like, that's really the biggest part of it. But I go, you know, and initially I was thinking about it. I'm like, I don't have to go down south, really. I really don't. I can go to the Cape. I can go to the Cape Cod.
Everyone goes down to the Cape. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the biggest thing, dude, is just like he said, ensuring it's dry, because you just want to make sure there's nothing sitting in the hull, you know. So like when you do park it, make sure you put it, you know, so any type of water is draining out. Make sure there's nothing in the I wouldn't even put any water in the live well in the winter.
Yeah, it's not worth it. It's probably not worth it. Although, because I drain it constantly, like every single trip. I drain it, you know, and the hull is definitely very, very dry. The big thing is like when you get snow in there overnight and then it melts. Yep. Cover that motherfucker.
Oh yeah, you have to cover it. You'll destroy your boat. You'll destroy it if you don't cover it, because that's when you start to get the dry rot, all that bullshit, and you know, connections start rusting and all that crap. Like, yeah, you don't want that. But yeah, mine is going away. It's going away in Ludlow, actually, out in your way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's. I found a spot that was pretty good price. That was heated. Yeah, so I don't have to winterize it, nothing like that. So, yeah.
No, that's good, because I mean, if you got to spend the money on putting it somewhere, you're better off. I would say, if you have the opportunity, heat that son of a bitch, and then you just take it out whenever, you know. Yep. You get a nice warm run. Go and grab it. Will you have access to be able to go and get it, or is it something where it's
so that's what I kind of talked to the guy about. I told him, I was like, hey man, if it could be in a spot to where I can grab it if need be, I was like, you know, because if I get an opportunity to head down, you know, south or something, you know, I want to go grab it. Last year it was kind of like that, where I could grab my boat anytime. The year before that bitch was tucked like in the back. Like I had to wait for other people. Yeah, I remember that. I had to wait for other people to come get their shit before I could get mine. The guy who ran it was a super nice guy. But it was just like, it was fucking, he actually, him and I, for me to get it out, ended up, because it was like my boat, another boat, and then a bunch of like classic cars and like really expensive cars. Yeah. Dude, we ended up just like pushing everything out. Like, we didn't have the keys, but we like put the shit in like neutral, pushing them in and around. Dude, it sucked.
Yeah, that's rough. That's a lot of fucking work, man. You're just like, I just want to rig up so I can go and fish. And it's like, fuck, you know?
yeah, exactly.
Oh, dude.
So
That is kind of fucking crazy. We got a couple more jig heads joining us. We got Tim Behan in the house. Says, hey, guys. Jay Manning. We mentioned, gave some congratulations last week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jay Manning and Alec Plotnikevich both.
That's right. Alec did. Yeah, that's right.
Definitely same weekend. I don't know if it was the same day both kids were born. But pretty awesome. So the fishing community grows even more.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Awesome.
My brother had him and his girlfriend had their baby a couple weeks ago too.
That's awesome. There is one thing we do need to talk about your week, Joe.
Okay.
Your appearance on The Whole Angler. Dude,
yes.
Let me say, I was riveted with that story.
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of podcasts and now I'm listening to a lot of audiobooks.
Yeah.
But I was like, I can't wait to finish trivia so I can find out what he's talking about next. There is so much shit I never knew about you, man.
Yeah, dude.
Like, I was like, holy shit. So I don't want to dive in. I don't want to ruin it or anything like that or anything. But you guys need to go and listen to Dave Urquise, the Wolf of Walmart, his podcast over on the Catch podcast. He's doing what, an episode a month now?
It's like he's trying to do like every other week.
Every other week.
Ish.
And he is just killing it. Like, go and listen to this because
it's so good.
There's folks in the fishing community that you think you really kind of know, and then you learn about, and it's just like, holy fuck. I'm like, we actually have a date on the calendar, which actually works out really good that Dave is in California because we have a date on the calendar. I'm going to record with him, and I'm like, this, for those listeners that are familiar with the show, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. There is a clip in there where Frank Reynolds, it's where everybody goes to the psychologist. And, and Frank is like, he's like, I don't like talking to head doctors. You got me all scrambled up. So buckle up. It's fucking not anywhere near as exciting as Joe's adventure or like Ryan Dahl's story or anything like that. But yeah, Bobby Roast Beef is a fucking mess too.
Yeah, dude, it's just such a, you know, and you and I have talked about it, you know, privately, and dude, it's just such a cool concept. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like every angler, you know, both of us have been on, you know, different podcasts and stuff like that. And, you know, it's just always fishing where he kind of, you know, Dave does good as like, cool. Yeah. We know you fish, but let's talk about you as a person, as a human being, your life story. And, dude, I kind of just let it all go. I got emotional a couple times.
Yeah, and, dude, I got emotional listening to it. I was like, are you fucking serious?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, it was what, God, we went almost 3 hours.
Yeah, I was like, well, that's what happens when you have somebody from the Jigs and Bigs podcast on your show.
Yeah, no shit.
Strap in and put on a pot of coffee because we're talking.
Yeah.
I just had a conversation this morning with Sarah Parvin. We were supposed to have her on, I think this spring, and like something happened schedule wise, and I was just talking with her. For those that don't know, Sarah runs the Slab Lab down in Alabama, raising record copper-nosed bluegill.
They're so big.
They're enormous. Like Wade Fishes, who is another guy I want to have on the show, terribly, who does all these catch and cooks, refers to these as faux heads. Dude, her fish are faux heads. But we were just talking, and I told her, she's like, yeah, she goes, I'm going to make some time this week. She's like, what do we do, like an hour or so? I was like, well, I'm pretty loose with it. You know, if we get someone who's not a talker, it might be a 30-minute window, you know?
Right.
If I get somebody on who can talk, we could go, you know, an hour and a half or more. And then she's like, oh, I'm a talker. And I said, so am I. So buckle up. And so I was, the good news is that I do edit these down. So if I have to give a time cue to keep us tight on something for schedule, I was like, I can edit that shit out. You guys actually never hear that, but I do it all the time. Like, hey, we're running short. I'm going to move a few questions ahead or something like that.
Yeah.
It's cow gills, Wagyu gills, Todd says. I think she might cut a fat bitch if I tried to catch and cook one of her copper nose.
Oh yeah,
I 100%. Yeah. And you know, I mean, it is what it is. Dude, yeah, unbelievable. It was fantastic. Dave is just killing it. I love it. I had a conversation today with Dave, or not today, this week, regarding the Columbus show. Now you're going to Columbus with us, right?
Yeah. The only thing I've talked, I gave Zach the warning. The only thing that would maybe change that is if crazy shit happens at the inauguration.
Yeah.
And I'm down in DC. So,
I mean, well, that weekend is Super Bowl weekend.
Right.
So that's a little bit ways away, but
we were down there for a month last time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that's gross.
Yeah, sleeping in a parking garage and shit.
That's rough. I'm hoping that's not the situation, but I am working on details to put together some kind of a Jigs and Bigs live event like we did last time.
Yeah.
This one's going to be a little bit tricky, but it's going to happen. So we're going to be in Ohio. Jigs and Bigs will be there. It's going to be more of a media. There's going to be a whole separate like booth space for the content, which is awesome.
Right.
Like, so the Dark Horse footprint in there is just expanding even further, which is absolutely freaking awesome. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be great. I think Expo season this year is going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be a little bit different than the way I've done things before. And we're just going to have ourselves some fun. I think it's going to be freaking badass. Well, it's good to have you back, Joe.
It's good to be back.
I had a week this week. There's a couple of things going on, and this is when I mentioned in the hot topics, we get to this part of my story. This is what I want to talk about. So the Rhode Island pizza party is still happening, but I have 2 different venues, and the issue I'm running into is cost, because the cost for these venues is ridiculous. Like, it is insane. One of the venues has a fee if you're a non-member of $550, which is fine. But then they charge a $400 security deposit that is not tied to the fees. So it's like you get it back unless they decide you didn't clean up well enough or something, and then they just keep it. So you have to plan for them to keep it. You just have to, because they could just, for whatever reason, just not return it. And I don't really love that. So that takes the ticket price and it extends it way further than I want it to be, not even including the pizza, because I want the ticket price to include the pizza. There's another, so I reached out to this organization and I said, listen, I go, what if I have family that's a member of the organization? Can they book it for me? And then suddenly those terms got really narrow. Like, they needed to be an immediate family member, to which I said, okay, no problem, because I got that covered. But they needed to be an immediate member of that specific location, not of the organization as a national organization, just in general. So there I was like, all right, I feel like I'm getting taken for a ride here. So I have another spot that had reached out. I have to do a little bit of investigating. It's a little bit cheaper, which ultimately all I need is 4 walls and a bar. That's it. So what I'm asking for the Jigs and Bigs listeners, because I am working with Pat Martin and Matt over at Klondike Custom Creations, and even John over at JCS Marine, just to get some ideas. But these guys are all busy. They have their shit going on. If you are familiar with the Southern Rhode Island area, okay, and you can make a suggestion, albeit on an American Legion, a VFW, an Elks Lodge, a Moose Lodge, anything like that, a fraternal organization, a Knights of Columbus, or even better is if there is a local bar that has an event space where we could do an event on a Saturday night. Please reach out to Jigs and Bigs and give me some suggestions so that we can do this. I'm trying to do this in a way that we can keep the ticket cost as minimal as possible so that you guys can just come and have fun, because we want to have a big amount of people there, and I don't want there to be, this crazy ticket price. That's what we ran into a problem with when we did the 200th episode. We got too big for our britches with that game dinner and everything, and I feel like it was just too high of a ticket price. And I mean, yeah, did we have 45 people in the room? Absolutely we did, and that was awesome, and thank you to everybody who was there. But if we can keep the ticket price down significantly, then I think we'll have more people. We're just going to have a great time, and more people will be there to enjoy and win some prizes and stuff. So if you're in the Southern Rhode Island area and you can make a suggestion as to a place that can house, I'd say 50 to 100 people, let's do it. Let's talk. Shit, if you want to do this at your house, I'm okay with that, because the food is going to, if you're a listener and you want to go old school hardcore show in your basement, let's do it. Fuck it, Or if you're a member of one of these organizations and you can help a bitch out by renting the room for us, like, we'll cover the funds, but if you can do it and save us a little bit to then pass the savings on to the ticket amounts, that would be huge. So that's awesome. So there's that. I did work on that this week. Matt and Pat and I talked about a bunch of different elements there. We had already kind of discussed the fact that Buffalo Nonsense will be like on a sampler type
It's gotta be.
Yeah, I love the idea. It was Pat's idea. He was like, I think we're going to offer like 2 pies and we'll just like have them out. It'll be a buffet. You know, people just help themselves. The ticket's going to include food, you know? And he goes, I think what we'll do is we'll bring a handful of pies that are buffalo nonsense and we'll cut them up real small. So this way it's like everybody can just try it and get an idea of like, we're insane or DB's is insane for thinking this is crazy. It'll be interesting. Maybe we'll have like an ongoing poll. It'll be pretty fun. It's just unbelievable. I bought some fishy shit did go down this week. So I had a great weekend last weekend. I got out a bunch. A little Banks End, got out on the boat, absolutely slayed the trout. I did cook the rainbows, that new recipe that I like with the chili crisp oil and the home fries with the peppers and onions and everything was absolutely out of this world. What I did with Eric, I was like, look, let's catch them. And then we ended up keeping 4. And I was like, Adam's trying to woo a new lady and she's a big fan of trout. So I was like, you take the 2 mediums that are right about the same size for presentation, you know? I'll take the big one and the little one. The little one, I just fed it to my dogs because they love fish. The big one I laid out on this bed of hash browns and covered in chili in chili crisp, and it was out of this fucking world. And I did it on the Blackstone. If you guys check out the new video that I had posted on the Jigs and Bigs YouTube channel, the outro of that is a bunch of the B-roll that I put on there. It was out of this world. It was so fucking good. There's nothing better than fresh cold water fish. Nothing better. So that happened. I did that Tuesday after I recorded the show last Monday and did all that, recorded the interview with Justin Makin, and then turned everything right around, then worked that night, came home, and for lunch on Tuesday, that's what I did. I did the trout. It was out of this world. I also had ordered a bunch of stuff on Dark Horse Tackle. I ordered some J-Bros Double Troubles, specifically to pair with the finesse bladed jigs that I've been throwing. The pig jig stuff, the jackal stuff, all that. It's a great little trailer. It really is. And I just needed to get a couple of different colors. So I think I picked up a black, a white, and then a green pumpkin. It's a great little Ned bait. It really is. You turn it vertical. I think it's awesome on like a finesse moving presentation to give like that minnow sort of shape. What else did I order? Oh, I got a little bit of a care package from Pig Jigs that arrived. Surprised the hell out of me. So, Nate, thank you so much. That was very thoughtful. A couple of items that in different weights to sample, and then a prototype of a jig that's not available. It's called the Jiglet. I fucking love that name. It's fucking love that name. And I am going to fool around with a bunch of that. I'm probably going to try out a bunch of that stuff today. Because where I'm going today is not like a big fishery necessarily. It's just a place locally. It's Congamon Jr. That's where I'm planning on going today. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm probably going to lean on BFS quite a bit, have some fun with that. Although it's going to be kind of windy, I'm going to have to use some of that heavier shit. But we just just going to have a good time. And so thank you, Nate. I appreciate that. There's some stuff that I'm really, really interested in looking at. There's a great like a jig. I'm not sure the name that you would call it. I have to look on the website, but it's got a blade right behind the jig head. On the shank of the hook. And there is a plastic that I've got that I just think might be perfect on that. So I'm looking forward to that. We'll fool around with it and see what happens. I got to tell you, dude, the gill color is just, it is so good. Yeah? It is so good. Todd says Jiglet is the perfect name. It really is. Fucking Jiglets. Oh man. So I got that in the mail. What else? There was something else that I had received in the mail that I needed. Oh no, there was some work shit. I needed some postcards for promotion and stuff and things like that. Nothing too fun. I only got out on Friday so far. I'll be going out today. I'm going to bank fish Sunday. In between my 2 events, I have a brunch event on Sunday, and then I have my evening trivia on Sunday. But in between, there's like 4 hours. And I'm like, my wife picked up a shift. She's not going to be around until 3. I'm like, so I'm just going to go and bank fish and hit it hard and then come home and do my thing. And, our bank fish and then go and do trivia and then come home and call it a night.
Yeah.
Which would be kind of nice because this podcast and everything is going to be uploaded probably tonight to drop on Tuesday like it normally would, or late Monday night. So that's a good thing. So I've only been out once this week on Friday. I had been talking with Mike Hansen, a.k.a. Binya Outdoors. And his work schedule has recently changed. He's working less days as where I'm working more like a psychopath. And he and I decided we were going to go and send it. And I was like, dude, he's coming from Vermont. I said, let's go to Barton's Cove, dude. Joe tells me all about this place all the time. I've never experienced it.
I didn't know that's where you went.
Stand by.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I was running a little bit behind, and Binya had arrived there earlier, and he was like, he calls me, he's like, dude, there's a gate here that's locked. And I'm like, really? He goes, yeah. And I was like, fuck, you got to be kidding me, dude. Really? And he's like, yeah. He goes, let me get out and take a look. And he's like, I can see a chain. Let me make sure. And he's like, yeah, it's locked. He's like, that's fucked up. And I was like, no kidding. Now, I never even made it up there. I was like, look, dude, I'm going to pull off. I'm going to turn around. I go, I'm going to send you a pin for the Oxbow ramp. And I'm like, we'll be fishing the river, or we can fish Oxbow. And so it'll be kind of similar to checking that out. But I was like, I really wanted to go up and like fuck around at the French King Bridge and all that shit. And it's going to happen. Is it going to happen this season? I don't know. He did say that. Now, this is what I'm curious, Joe. He did say
I know what it is. I know what it is.
Was it newly paved?
They're doing ramp construction. They were supposed to do it in the spring. They pushed it to the fall. I'm so glad we had this conversation because that's where I was going to go tomorrow.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dude, I would have been, that's an hour and a half ride for me. I would have been so mad.
It sucks. Dude, you should go to Oxbow.
Ooh, I could go to the bow.
Fuck it, dude. You know what? Fuck it. I won't bankfish. Go to Oxbow and I'll join you at fucking 1.
Okay.
Fuck it, or you'll see me at the ramp. just fishing from there. So I was like, fuck it, we'll go to Oxbow. I was like, I was like, from where you're at right now, it's about 30 minutes.
Right.
And I'm like, you're already all the way down here. I was like, in this way, at least I'm like, we still have the option to go main river or fish off of the main river. And he was like, all right, dude, that sounds good. And like, again, like conditions yesterday were not something I was really stoked on because we had a nice little bump in temperature midweek this week. Like it was like 75, 80 degrees. And then started to ramp right down right when we got to Friday. Thursday night, it actually got pretty chilly. And I was like, you got to be shitting me, man. So this was one of those days where I was just like, this sucks. I'm like, this is just, we're going to have to go and send it and see what we can do. Well, I get there, I beat him to the ramp, and I was like, this is good because I'm going to launch the boat and tie off to the dock and be ready to go. I wanted to re-spool my jig rod because that spool was getting pretty low anyway. And I'm like, I'm going to re-spool that sucker. I got that all set. I got everything ready to rock. And then along comes Mike, hops in the boat. We're ready to go. And we, as we're leaving, there was a guy, I think he was in a nitro, pulls up on the other side of the dock. And we're just, making small talk. And he was like, yeah, he's like, you going out main river or are you going out into the Oxbow? And I was like, Mike was in the boat at this point and we had already made the decision. We're going to go for smallies out in the main river,
Yep.
See if they're, what's going on. And he says, hey, he's like, yeah, he goes, you going up or south? I was like, probably going to start south and work our way up. That's just my thinking. I'm like, fish upriver. You know what I mean? Like, that's just the way I like to think about it. So he says, hey, don't go any further south than this point. He's like, because they're not biting down there. And I was like, oh, all right, cool. Hey, thanks for the tip, man. And we round the bend.
And this
out.
Is just someone you saw?
This is just someone that we saw.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So we start rounding the bend out into the main river and we just start getting on a plane. And I was like, Mike, we're totally going past that fucking spot, he said. 100%. I was like, because the spot I want to hit is further down from that. And
I never go south out of there.
Oh, really?
I think the only time I ever really went south out of there was when you and I did it during that tournament.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think we put one in the boat. I mean, that day we only caught 2 fish, but we caught 50% of the bag there.
Yeah, that's true. Right at the marina. I caught it off the dock. Yeah.
And what's funny is that was the mark. He was like, don't go further south in the marina.
Okay.
He's like, there's nothing down there. And I was like, okay. So I went further south than the marina, and I was like, well, fuck it. We'll fish right up and we'll fucking get right into them.
Yeah.
So we get out there and we start fishing, and I was throwing around a Kitech on like one of my favorite for like a conventional size jig head. One of my favorites, which is a Picasso tungsten weedless jig head. It's got these 2 tungsten wires that stick off of it. And so if you're throwing around like rocks and shit, like it helps to keep you from getting snagged. I had one bite that I missed, and I was like, oh shit. One bite that I had missed. And I was like, okay, all right, so we'll throw the boat in spot lock. That's all I'm looking for. I'm just covering water at this point.
Sure.
Visibility in this water was actually a lot better than I had expected. So this is why I wasn't throwing anything. Like, I was trying to go as natural as possible. So 3.5 inch swim bait, and I'm basically letting it hit bottom and then hopping it along and then just kind of swimming it a bit like quarter turns.
Yeah.
I get bit. So I'm like, yes, great. I freaking hammer this fish, get one in the boat. I'm like, there we go. We're on. Game on, baby. So we start fishing. I missed, I think, my next 3 fish. Like, it wasn't that I didn't set the hook. It was that they were biting the tail and not getting up to the hook. And I was like, you motherfuckers. So I'm like, all right, what are we going to do here? Now, we had fooled around a little bit and changed a couple of spots, but we were in generally the same area. And I was like, all right, what are we going to do here? What are we going to do? Let's see. I had decided, because those bites seemed to be when they were on the bottom.
Sure.
I tied on a 3/4 ounce wobblehead jig with a similar color plastic. So this way I could just drag it on the bottom, you know? Dude, I got hung up so many times. I freed it up.
That's a lot. That's a lot of weight.
It is. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I just wanted it on the bottom, just to stay on the bottom.
Yeah.
So I was like, that lasted like maybe half a dozen casts, and I was like, what are we doing here? So I went back to that other swim bait. I lost. This is when I lost that. It was in total I lost 4. This was the 4th fish. Yeah. And this one was a big one. It was a good one. It wasn't the biggest one, but it was a good one. And this fish, like, hits the top of the water, and like, you know how sometimes you can feel that hook come out?
Oh yeah.
I didn't feel that. When he hit the water and thrashed, that bait just like slipped right out. Again, just had the tail. I was like, you've got to be shitting me.
Just short strike and everything.
Yeah.
Huh?
I was like, that is bullshit. So being adaptable and making a change, I grabbed the BFS rod, which I have downsized my leader to 2-pound leader now.
Holy shit.
Yeah. I did it when I was trout fishing with my dad. And I was throwing like super, super light stuff. So I downsized my leader. It's 2-pound fluoro. And I'm like, all right, let's see what happens. And
so before you continue, what size swim bait were you using before? Like
first?
Yeah.
I was using a 3.3 inch.
Okay. All right. Continue.
And what I downsized to was a 2.8 on an 1/8 ounce. It was a perfected Jigmasters ball head.
Love their. For anyone out there that fishes jig heads, you guys need to get the Jigmaster jig heads, a screw lock.
They're so good.
They are such a phenomenal, sticky, just there. I mean, it's the only jig head I'll use now.
And the shank of that hook is the perfect length on that.
Yep.
You know how like the Kitechs on the top, they have that groove up on the top?
Yep.
That it goes all the way to the end of it. Like it's the perfect size for that swim bait.
Different colors. Dude, when we were up at St. Lawrence 2 times ago with Jeremiah, dude, he like would not put down the red jig head with the and he was running a he was running a swim bait, but he would not. It was the red with like the silver, like he just would not put it. Yeah, he just would not put anything else but that red jig head, dude. Swim bait with that red jig head.
I'm telling you, like I'll be stocking up when we're at in Columbus for sure.
Oh yeah,
I still have a good amount of them, but I use them a lot. And
me too.
I'm like, you know what? This is the move. This is the move. And so I tie this on and I make like 2 casts. And then I make a 3rd cast, and this is wild. So again, this is really, really light. It's only an 1/8 ounce, and there's some pretty good current. But what was great was that the wind was going in the opposite direction. So it was this weird sort of like...
It's so weird when that happens.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. And I'm like, all right, so this is cool. We're going to go ahead and make some shit happen. So I'm letting this go, and I backlash on this cast, which can happen very easily with BFS. And I talked to BFS Empire this week about being on the show, and they're like, what would we talk about? I'm like, oh my God, what wouldn't we talk about? You know, I'm like, everything. Yeah. But like, that's the one thing with BFS
does not like the wind.
It doesn't like the wind, and it also doesn't like too much force when you're casting. Like, it really is, everything is.
You gotta let the BFS reel do the work. Yeah, you can't whip that thing.
And if you get too caught up and you're just like, you overdo it, it's just gonna overrun. And that's exactly what the issue was. So I'm like picking out this backlash, no big deal, and I reel back up and I give it like 2 pops on the bottom, and I'm on, and then I just jack that fish. Like I just lay into it. Now Binya was at the back of the boat, and he felt me set the hook, and he turned around.
The best.
Yeah, he was like, "Holy shit!" So he turned around, and so there is footage of this from his camera because he was making a video on the boat. I wasn't. I was just like, I'm going out to fish. I'm just going to do my thing. Of course, this happens when I'm not making a fucking video like an absolute amateur.
Every fucking time, dude. Every
fucking time. Yeah. So this fish immediately starts pulling drag. And like, I'm hearing that clicking on that BFS reel, and I was like, oh, really? Okay. So I was moving at this point.
Like 2 pound fucking test.
2 pound fucking test, dude. 2 pound. Fucking brass ones, buddy. Fucking brass ones. So I am there, right? And I know what I've got for leader, and I'm like shitting my pants at this moment. I'm like, this is a big fish. So I'm hearing it scream. I'm like, let it run. Let it do its thing, right? Okay, we'll make some movement. I put the boat on spot lock and lock into that spot.
Okay.
I go and I start working it back to the boat. I immediately bury the tip of the rod into the water because I know if this is a smallie, it's going to jump like a motherfucker. And it tried, and it did one of those like jumps, and it came up, and it was like, and fell back down.
Yeah.
But this was a giant. And I was like, holy shit, Binya. He grabs the net instinctually, knowing, because we were just talking about the leader size, knowing how light this gear is. And we bring him over to the boat. He gets him in the net. I'm like, holy fucking shit. I'm like, that's probably a new PB. My PB smallmouth was only 17 1/4. I said it this year when I was out with my youngest daughter. And I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me, dude. This is bananas. We go and we get this thing in the boat. I record some content. Binny's got all this stuff recorded. And it was a new PB. It was a 19-inch largemouth, smallmouth. 19-inch smallie. Probably came in like 3.5, 4 pounds.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when I saw it.
Spilling over the sides of the catchboard. I did take a quick pick where I'm not in a tournament or anything, so like I have an open mouth in the pick. It goes well over 19 1/4.
I was gonna give you shit for that, but I didn't.
I figured everybody was going to. They'd be like, open mouth. Hey, open mouth, jackass. So I'm calling it 19 even. I'm like, holy shit, release that fish. I was like, this is wild. We fished for like another maybe an hour or so, and I was like, I have an appointment at the barber. I don't know if you can tell, Mo did such a good job. My God, it's amazing. My wife might even have a good reaction to this one. You know, who knows? So I fished for like another hour, and this whole time I'm checking my watch. Remember that story I shared about Paul? About how he was like, oh,
I had the remote upside down.
Oh, yeah.
All right, this is the Bobby Roast Beef version.
Okay.
So I'm checking my watch. I have this nice Citizen Eco Drive that I love. I wear this thing all the time.
Dude, I love Citizen Eco Drives. I got like 3 or 4 of them. I fucking love them.
Never charge the battery. It's great.
Ever.
It's the best.
Ever.
It's my favorite watch. I do have one other watch. I forget the name of it. Bulgovi or some shit. I forget. But
it's a Bulova.
Bulova. That's what it is.
Dude, those are like 2 of my...
Yeah. I like watches.
I'm a big watch connoisseur.
Yep.
So it's funny, like during work and everything, I just wear like an Apple Watch, and but like other than that, like when I go out and stuff, I got a bunch of. Meg hates it because the Citizens, the Belovas, they're not cheap.
They're not cheap. No,
not cheap.
But they're heirlooms, and they're going to be around where you can gift them to your kids and shit like that.
Exactly.
So, and I'm like, that's pretty cool. So I only have like a couple of good watches, but like the Belovas had a dead battery forever. Like that was the one I used to wear like all the time during COVID. It's fucking nice, man. It's got diamond fucking face on the. It's beautiful. But this one here, the Eco Drive, is my favorite thus far because it's like I never have to change the battery. It's fucking maintenance free. It's great. I'm looking at my watch and I'm like, I really like, I've got my daughter picking up my youngest at school. I was like, so I have a little bit of time. I'm like, I should probably get off the water for about 2:00. And Mike's like, yeah. Now keep in mind, he was catching them as well. I think in total, we had like 9 or 10 bites in an area where they weren't biting.
Oh, because they 100% were, and that guy didn't want you to go down there.
That's exactly what it was. And
so who knows how many you would have caught if that dickhead wasn't there before you?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Well, he did tell me that all of them that he caught were like about 14s. And I'm like, all right, that was like the majority of what we were putting in the boat. We're fish like that. Benny caught a decent one too, probably about a 16. And we're going and doing, we're doing all right. We're having a good time. And I'm watching my watch and I'm like, dude, it's already fucking 1:30. I go, let's fish until 1:45. And then we'll just head back upriver, and then we'll fucking send it. So he's like, all right, sounds good, man. So we're heading back upriver, and like, I'm like, this is my favorite thing when I'm going back up to the launch, like up on plane, doing my max speed of about 28 miles an hour. And it was a great day. It wasn't super cold. It was gusty, but it wasn't super cold. So, we're zipping our way back up, and we get over to the ramp and everything, and we pull the boat out, and I've got that down to a science now with the steps as far as like in the cold water and not in staying dry. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. So we get on we get the boat on the trailer. We pull the boat out, and as we're setting stuff up, I grab my phone and I look, and it was 1:00. Because I never fucking changed the fucking time on my fucking watch like an absolute jabroni. And I was like, you got to be shitting me. So I was like, all right. So my usual way when I break a PB is I'm like, I'm buying lunch. Let's go out. Let's go and fucking do it. So we headed out to Local Burger. Shout out to Local Burger. Had ourselves some burgers and fries and called it a day. I got home in just enough time to go to work. And then I got to work Friday night, and there was a couple that was there that are pretty fishy folks themselves. It's Adam and Leah were there playing trivia. This is the second time this week they've joined me for trivia, so I'm hoping to see them more often. Adam followed me on Fishbrain. Leah followed me on Instagram. But they're fishy folks, like real fishy folks. They lived in Alaska for a period of time, and they are big into salmon fishing and harvesting, like to get by. Adam does love to fish, so we're gonna hopefully get out and do some fishing soon, and that it's pretty badass. That about covers my week this week. Like I said, I'm gonna fish today, I'm gonna fish tomorrow, and then we'll see what happens in between. Man, I am not doing good when it comes to not being as long-winded.
No, you're sucking at that.
I'm failing significantly, and I hope you guys are okay with it. What do you say we take a quick break? Because I think this headlines segment is going to be heavier than a regular headline segment as far as duration goes.
Yeah.
Why don't we take a break now? We'll come back. We'll do our news headlines and then our Just the Tip and FTG. You guys don't want to miss it. We'll be back with more Jigs and friggin' Bigs right after this. Jigs and Bigs wants to take a moment to say thank you to our partners for helping us continue to push the limits of our fishing adventures and bring you amazing long-form podcast content. We need to thank Dark Horse Tackle, Omnia Fishing, A-Bay Lure, The Bay House, and The Ship Motel. We can't forget about Three Bells Outfitters, Torres Sunglasses, and of course, Reaction Tackle. Be sure to check the description of this podcast for any associated affiliate links or promo codes they've generously provided our listening audience. Again, we cannot thank our partners enough for their support. Please consider supporting them and supporting the show in the same process. Thanks.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/campaign to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
The holidays are back at Starbucks, and there's so much to share. With classics like Caramel Brulee Latte, Peppermint Mocha, and Chestnut Praline Latte, we're celebrating everyone's flavor of festivity. Order yours in the app.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. The one with the impeccable taste in fishing podcasts. Bobby Roast Beef here with a little call to action for all Jigs and Bigs listeners. We're opening up our hotline to you. Now you can call us to sound off about almost anything at 413-324-8519. Want to submit someone for our FTG segment? Call us at 413-324-8519. Care to maybe suggest a topic for Just the Tip or Bait of the Week? Call us at 413-324-8519. Maybe you just want to give us or anyone else a little shout out on the show, or you want to suggest a guest for the beef seat. You guessed it. Call us at 413-324-8519. The Jigs and Bigs hotline is there for you to leave a message with us 24/7. Just call 413-324-8519. Also, you can check that number in the notes of this podcast. Well, so there was one thing that we did forget about. Before we get to the headlines and dive into this conversation, Joe and I were talking last night on my way back from work, and he was like, so what'd you catch that on? He goes, I'm curious if it's what I thought it was. And I told him what it was, and he was like, that's not it. I said, don't tell me. I want to know what your thought was at that time. So what did you think I caught that 19 on?
So there was a bait that came in the Dark Horse tackle box.
Yes.
That I was just like, whoa.
This is the Bobby Roast Beef bait. I know what you're talking about.
Oh, do you? No, so I don't think you do.
Oh.
I don't think you do. So the 4.5-inch glide that came in there.
Yeah.
Is like, that was like, and I saw it beforehand when I was with Zach up in New York. Mm-hmm. But also, the bladed jig, is that what you're thinking?
That's what I thought. Yeah.
So that thing is fire
Customs.
too.
Yeah.
So this one is the Stoneman and Sons glide, dude.
It's
and this
nice.
is, dude, like, look at this thing. Like, yeah, you can't see it in the box, but
it's absolutely beautiful, man.
Like, this is like fall. Like, that's gonna be a smallmouth killer.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, so that's like in my mind, like, I wonder if he threw that thing on, and that's what he caught it on, and because this was a good box. This was a good Dark Horse box this month.
It's kind of funny. I love fishing BFS, and really this year, every time I've bank fished, that's like the only combo I take with me. So I did pick up a sling bag from Rapala. That I'm basically making a bank bag, which means that's where all my finesse baits, all my plastics and everything, they're going to go, which is nice because it buys me a little bit more like real estate. I'm going to be putting a box together that is, because there's the other glide, the ultralight glide that's in there. Yep. I mean, the two of those, dude, they're just they will be absolute killers, 100%.
Oh yeah.
That HH Customs bladed jig is sweet. What's nice about that is it's 3/16 of an ounce.
Right.
So you can throw it on, you can throw it in more windy conditions, or if the lighter ones are rising up too high, that's going to keep your depth, a little bit more. And my BFS combo kind of tops out at like 3/16. Like that's where I'm comfortable throwing something. Like I've got those 3/16 ounce Giltech jigs, and with a tantrum on there, like it's an ideal sort of setup. But I could see where you would think maybe I'd be throwing that sucker.
I'm probably gonna tie that bad boy on for tomorrow if I go out.
Hell yeah, dude.
Maybe I'll bust out the BF. Actually, we'll see.
Yeah. Dude, I'm telling you, I freaking love it. There is a spot, if I end up bank fishing tomorrow, there's a spot I'm looking to hit where one of my trivia teams, Sheboygan, that's their team name, they periodically will, so these dudes are great dudes. They all work in the cannabis industry, and so when they come in for trivia,
they're fucking fried.
So they come in, but oftentimes they'll go and they'll fish before trivia. And I'm like, you guys are living my best life. Like, that's what I want to be doing. And there's a spot, this tiny little spot, where one of the dudes caught like an 18-inch pike. And that had no business being up in this. I don't know how it happened. But I'm like, no shit. I was like, okay, we'll go ahead and do this. It could be fun, And I'm thinking some of those BFS baits, like that BFS spinnerbait from Pig Jigs, is going to pay off big there. And the really light bladed jig, too. There's a 16th ounce in play, which is the lightest bladed jig I would have ever thrown.
Yep.
It'll be cute. We'll see what happens. We got to talk about the money, though. The money and Bassmaster. Let's do this. Alrighty, guys. We mentioned it last week when I recorded the show, what happened and all of that shit. But as it would turn out, Bassmaster has effectively eliminated the entry fees for their elite level tournaments, and which is great because in total you're talking $45,000 right there. Yeah, that saves somebody because there's 9 events. They're $5,000 a piece, and that you're not putting that in there. But the reaction has kind of been split, I think, and I'm interested, Joe, on what your take on it is.
Yeah. So, do you want me to read some of the articles so people can get like the full
context?
Okay.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. All right. So. Again, like we said, Bassmaster Elite no longer pay to play. And I, a lot of people probably didn't. Many people may not understand that these guys, like you said, they pay $45,000 a season, $5,000 a tournament, and they're basically playing for their own money. So, professional bass fishing will never be the same ever. That's a huge statement. In this case, it's true. BASS, or Bass, just announced that the Bassmaster Elite Series, heading into its 20th season, will no longer require entry fees. In 2025, competitors of the most prestigious tournament trail on the planet, for the first time ever in the history of bass competition, will no longer fish for their own money. No longer are Elite Series pros required to pay to play. The historic decision was not made lightly by Bass. They believe that the ultimate goal of the organization's highest level of competition should be on par with other individual professional sports like golf, tennis, etc., which do not require pros to pay entry fees to compete. However, on the heels of record-breaking viewership of Bassmaster Live on Fox Networks and Bassmaster.com, paired with strong long-term partnerships, this ultimate goal has been realized. And I think the biggest question was, where's the money coming from? And that right there, that just in that sentence right there, that kind of tells you. It sounds like, more partners to Bassmaster, or they're going to put out a little bit more, as well as, their viewership has gone up. So they're starting to see, I'm sure with the, Bassmaster.com, Bass memberships, I'm sure all that, kind of contributes. And, yeah, so it just kind of gets into all the details of that, but that was the main point I wanted to take. But what do I think? What is Joe's take on this? I think it's smart. I like it, and here's why. Here's why. And they said it right in there. Obviously, bass fishing is not nearly at the level of viewership, nor will it probably ever be, of your other professional sports, even golf, tennis, soccer, basketball, football, all of them. If they are gaining the monetization and the revenue to be able to essentially waive the $45,000 per angler fee and still adequately put on these tournaments, I think that's a huge win for them.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
Because it what people don't understand is what a lot of people don't understand with pro bass fishermen.
Yep.
They don't make the money you think they do.
No.
I'm sure they do fine with sponsorships and whatnot, but they travel themselves all over the country with their own truck, their own, trailer on their own gas, and that shit ain't cheap. You know what I mean? I think it's a really good thing. I think when we will really know it is I think like mid-season to see if it's like was fruitful and like a good call to see if the tournaments are the same quality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense.
And you really wouldn't see that for sure unless you're there at the tournament. Because you can, on TV, on streaming, you can make anything look great. But we'll hear about it. If they suck, if it seems like the quality of the tournaments and the weigh-ins and stuff like that have gone down, we'll see it. Or we'll hear about it, I mean. And I think it's a great move. I think it's a great move in the aspect of making professional bass fishermen feel like a professional level sport.
Yep. There's what I find to be really interesting with all this is that so there's two content creators who are very heavy with the focus on tournament style bass fishing. And I watched some of their content and they both had starkly different takes on it. One of them is one of our favorites, Ben Milliken, and he broke down the payouts and how this is going to work out. And it seems like the payouts, there's a name that they gave it, like a performance-based payout or something like that, where
yes, I did see that. Yeah.
It really is about getting up to that level. And he did the math. And what he did when he did the math was he added $0 for the entry fee, right? And when you add $0, right? Because you're comparing last season to this season.
Sure.
You're not doing the math correctly, in my opinion. Now, Tyler Berger had done another video where he also did the math with insane spreadsheets and actually had made adjustments and said, if Bassmaster were to change the structure of the payouts in the main ranking, instead of paying out X amount, they rolled it. I think he said the top 40 paid out. He goes, you would see that it would benefit those anglers that much more. And I'll bet you we're going to see that in the future. I would be willing to bet that would be the case. But the reason why I bring it up is when Tyler did the work, he goes, well, since you're not spending $45,000 to do these events, you have to make the comparison, you have to take that $45,000 and add it to your budget. Right? So if your expenses, I feel like that's what a lot of people talk about. They talk about all the expenses to do all these events and all this such and such. Yeah, that's how it is. If you want to do this, what the fuck are you going to do? You know what I mean?
Right.
There are things you can do to try to save as much as you can, but you're not, unless you get a gas sponsorship, and why not do that? Then, maybe fucking Mobile Exxon starts fucking giving you a prepaid fucking card so you're not spending that money on those tournaments. You know what I'm saying? There are ways to make this back, to do very well. And not spending almost 50 G's is a huge step in the right direction. Now, if you get there, I do think that where a lot of those folks that are the payouts suck, comes from two things. I forget what one of them is, but for example, AOI doesn't pay out like it did.
Okay.
And I think that there's a lot of folks that are just they're a little bit butthurt about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're at the top, you're still doing great. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But if you factor in the fact that that $45,000 isn't a zero in the budget because you're making a comparison in these reactions to the 2024 season versus the 2025 season. In 2025, you're not spending. It's funny because in Ben Milliken's video, he says it. He goes, we're basically getting $45,000 back is what's happening.
Sure.
And you have to account for that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I think it is, I'm with you, Joe. I think this is a good thing for Bassmaster.
There's one thing that makes me nervous.
What's that?
So not that makes me nervous, but this is where it's a real huge gamble on bass. What if they find out it doesn't work?
Yeah, that's true. Going back is going to be that much harder.
That's what I mean.
They have to make it work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like if this doesn't work for some reason, they're like, oh, we fucked up. And like, we got to, and they're like, we got to go back to charging, and now they might have to recoup some money. So now instead of 500 or 5,000, maybe it's going to be 5,500.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you're just going to have that many anglers that are going to jump ship to NFPL or MLF. And so, dude, I mean, I'm all about, I love a good awesome gambling session.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
It's a step in the right direction. Let's just see. I want it to work for them. I think it's great. I think they definitely needed to do something like that. To kind of, because, you know, obviously MLF and Bass are competitors in the aspect of league play, but the MLF's been making some big moves, and Bass had to do the same. Yeah, and this is a huge move, so we'll see what happens.
And it's interesting, like, so I haven't heard this come up at all necessarily, but obviously the tournaments to qualify to be in the Elite Series, you're still paying entry fees for. So like all the opens and everything else and all that stuff, you still are paying entry fees for. So I wonder, like, did their fees go up?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, that's what I'm curious.
Yeah, so they already announced all that shit.
Yep.
I think we talked about it briefly in a few shows ago.
Because they're splitting it now.
Yeah. So it's almost like regional now.
Yeah.
Which is good.
That could bring out more anglers too, I see this being like, I know there are a lot of fucking people who are just not into tournament fishing, but the reality of it is like there is a slice of this group of people who enjoy fishing, who use tournament fishing as a metric to base their progress. And hey, that's up to them to decide if that's what they want to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not up to us.
Sure.
I think Todd Sefton makes a good point. He says now they're getting closer to a pro sport like golf. Like, golfers don't pay to play; they have to qualify.
Right.
I love that. Now, what I think Bassmaster should do is go out of business. Don't be a business. Be a league. Be a league. Make all your money off of the advertising and the television and the sponsorships that are direct, whether be them endemic or non-endemic sponsors. Like, make all your money that way and become a league. And make these folks instead of paying to compete or compete for a cash prize, make them play for the equivalent of the Stanley fucking Cup and give them a salary. If they qualify, they just got themselves a fucking job. And part of that is their benefits for their expenses. Like, are you going to be shelling out $100,000? Like, I'll tell you what, you offer me $100,000 a year to fish and you're covering my expenses, right? Shit, I will close my business yesterday to do that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like you work your way up to this spot and you've achieved this level of being an angler. Bring them on that way. You know what I mean? And then make them play for like the Wimbledon, a trophy.
Sure.
And that exists. I mean, I know that there is the big fucking bassman. You know what I'm saying? But like, give them a salary. Put them on a contract,
Bring it international.
Oh, dude, international would be sick. You could do different varieties. Like you could do a team base where you have 2 or 3 boats that are grouped together. They work together. You know what I mean?
They just did it in China. Did you see that?
Yeah, I heard about it. Yeah. It's just that, like, I see there being a lot more of a future in the sports world for bass fishing, period. And this also isn't necessarily just the big boat thing. Like, I think the Bassmaster Kayak Series could probably fucking, like, jump and really, really take it to the next level doing something like this. Because the thing is like, really what we're talking about here is televised sports. You know what I mean? You do have an audience that has an investment in their own time to watch and consume this content that comes out, and just really give a damn about the standings and who did what or where they're catching them and shit like that, or the style of fishing. But if you get, put them on contract and you let these anglers have a personality, you know, you're going to make something that's entertaining to watch, which benefits the league, not the business, the league. And you still have your opens and qualifying rounds that will generate a piece of income for you, so that this way you can retire some anglers that have been there maybe too long. You don't renew their contract, or maybe they violate their contract and they do something they're not supposed to, like doing a nude photo shoot, Randy Blockett. You know what I mean? You know, maybe they do something like that and you got to get rid of one. Well, now you've got a field of anglers that are proving themselves in the traditional pay-to-play bass tournament, you know, fishing style, and they've proven themselves. And if they qualify, you bring them in and boom, there's a contract, you know?
Yeah.
It's almost like a marriage of like professional sports and like professional wrestling.
Sure.
Make it fucking... you know, WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Bassmania.
I dig it.
I get so fucking fired up about this shit. But it's funny because it's like, I think that like that in my vision, I think that would be ideal, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, and it's like, yeah, put this shit on. Like, television networks are fucking like they're streaming. And there, you know, there's revenue there. You know what I mean?
There is.
Advertising,
yeah, for sure.
Like, yeah, you go on a major network with this and you give people something to watch. And that could be absolutely huge. You know, all of a sudden Bassmaster, you know, becomes this huge event where you've got, and then you eliminate the arguing about this. They're like, no, we're paying you a salary. This is where this is. Here's your expenses. We're putting everybody up in this hotel. You know?
Yeah.
And then you can save because you're doing it in bulk. You know? I don't know.
I like it.
Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. I don't know. Joe, do you have anything else that you want to add? Like a final thought?
No, man, that's pretty much it. I think I pretty much covered how I do think I need to watch the Milliken video and stuff like that, because he always has like,
it's good.
He always has a different like a pretty unique take on shit like this. But I'm gonna continue to educate.
I'd recommend the Tyler Berger one too.
I will. I'll look at the
that's
Tyler's
really good
as well. Yep.
And that's how I discovered it. Was I was fucking rifling through Milliken's comments on his video, and somebody was like, "Dude, you need to watch the Tyler Berger video."
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's a good one.
We'll see.
I freaking love it. Let's go ahead and we'll shift gears here. It's time.
And perhaps play a little game called Just the Tip. Just for a second, just to see how it feels. Or ouch, ouch, you're on my hair.
Okay. The Volvo XC60 plug-in hybrid is about performance. Not just on the road, but in life. With not only trunk space, but room to make memories. It's electric, with a backup plan, where the only speed that matters is how fast you can slow down. The Volvo XC60 plug-in hybrid. Performance where it matters the most. Visit volvocars.com/US to learn more.
So Joe's got a tip for us this week.
We do.
I love it.
And it kind of goes along with it. For those of you who don't know, the weather here in New England has been wild. this year. I mean, we are in November and we're still hitting high 50s, high 60s every day.
Yep.
And it kind of like we're still kind of in that fall fishing pattern, much later than typical. So I got a couple pointers for you for the fall fishing. Biggest one, focus on shallow water near deep structure. What do I mean by that? So the water cools and they tend to go a little bit closer to the shallow areas to feed before the winter. So what you want to do is you want to look for those areas where like shallow water meets deep structure. So like the drop offs, the points, the submerged rocks or ledges, stuff like that. And it's basically easy access to that deeper water where they can, retreat if needed, or but they can also, it gives them the opportunity to chase the bait fish into the shallows. What baits to use for this? My favorites. I love jerk baits in the fall. Love jerk baits in the fall. But you can use jerk baits, cranks, spinner baits, chatter baits, all that. But take into consideration what you're gonna have those cold fronts that are gonna come in, like what it was like 33 degrees for us last night, but it's supposed to be like 60 degrees today.
Oh yeah, big swings in temperature for sure.
Yeah. So obviously you need to slow down your presentations when that water's a little bit colder. And, because as that water temperature drops, the metabolism of these fish slows down. So they're a little bit more lethargic. They're a little bit slower, not striking as quick, but you can still get them to strike.
Yep.
And fish early and late. They tend to be more active during the early morning and like late afternoon. So that's just like when there's a lot more feeding activity. So just, focus on that shallow water where, they have the opportunity to go deep when need be. That's my fall fishing tip.
That's a good one, man. That's a good one. I mean, anytime you go and you find a shallow area that has access to deeper water, it's a great thing, especially during those transition periods, because you could have a swing where it's like, oh, we weren't expecting that cold, low of like 25 degrees, but then, that might push them off a little bit. But this way you give yourself, you kind of buy options,
Yeah. And the good thing is like, it gives you the opportunity to search a little less, because obviously you got to watch the weather, and cold fronts can obviously push those fish deeper. While like those warm stretches tend to keep them in the shallows a bit longer. So you just got to pay attention to water temperatures, behavior of the bait fish, see what the bait fish are doing, and that's pretty much your best chance of landing some decent fall bass.
Yeah, I love it, dude. I'm here for it. So it is fall, y'all. Go ahead and make it happen.
Fall, y'all.
We have an FTG that came in this week from New Jersey, from a regular listener. Let's go ahead and dive in.
Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy.
Bobby, YP the guy. I tagged you in that little reel, you know what I'm saying? But after that, I don't know what the fuck they weren't speaking English. I don't know what the fuck they were speaking, but fuck that guy. Saw me caught this fucking tank and immediately brought his kids over onto the dock I'm fishing and pretty much started casting where I literally cast. And his daughter was eyeing up my stuff, which made me feel uncomfortable. And lucky I didn't know what kind of language they were speaking, because I would have been like, yo, what the fuck? But yeah, fuck those guys. Not the kid, really, but fuck that kid, whatever. For eyeing up my shit. But tight lines, have a great day.
Brandon, we appreciate that, dude. Brandon is on Instagram, and he's getting into fishing hardcore. Like, he really is. He actually recently sent me a DM asking about selecting a new rod. And I told him, I was like, look, I'm like, you know, where you're at in the country, I go, you don't really have the ice situation that we have. So you can get out there and fuck around a little bit. It's going to be slow. And I told him, I was like, this is a great opportunity to get into a bait caster and learn that shit, because you don't even worry about catching fish. Just get the procedure down. I was like, I will come down and we will go fishing, and I will give you the Bobby Roast Beef course on learning how to use a bait caster. And he's like, for real? I was like, yeah, absolutely. So he's a good dude, but I cannot stand when that shit happens. Somebody sees you catch a fish and they're just like, oh shit, that's where they are.
Yeah.
You know, the best place to go and find the fish is, you know, and when I first started fishing, I guess when I was bank fishing, I would fucking use this kind of rationale as well. If I went up to a spot and I saw like a bunch of like Gary Yamamoto empty bags on the ground and fucking bobbers hanging from the tree or something, I would think that there was a reason people were fishing there. And that is not the way to choose your fishing spots. The people might have caught fish there, but you know where else people also may have caught fish?
Anywhere in the water.
And the thing is like those places are often hammered so hard because of access. So like you'll have a spot where you're like, you don't have to fucking, you know, bring a machete with you and carve your way through the wooded area to get to the juicy point that's really going to pay off. Instead, you can go and hey, there's a time and a place. Like there's sometimes I just want to go and bullshit with my buddies or whatever, and just from the bank especially. This happens all the time. But when people see you catching and they're just like, oh, let's go right here. This is part of the reason why I'm like, when people say to me all the time, they're like, oh, you got to go up to Pulaski, New York and fish for salmon. You got to do this. I'm like, that is not my style. Like, I do this to kind of, it's bizarre. I'm like Randall from the Clerks movies. I hate people but love gatherings. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I like to get people on the boat to fish with me so that, you know, there's camaraderie, there's fellowship, the whole nine. But I fucking can't stand it when I'm like trying to do my thing and somebody comes over, and especially if they're like eyeing your equipment and stuff. Fuck those guys. Fuck them. You know? And you know, Brandon, you're probably better off for not understanding the language they were speaking, whatever it was. Because that could be a whole other thing. Like, you know?
Yeah.
Who fucking knows? Anything like that ever happened to you, Joe?
Yes, actually. It was actually this year.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was fishing. I was fishing Lashaway, and I went down over to the other side by Route 9 by the dam.
Yep.
And I usually pull decent, one or two out of there, and it just so happened. So, have you fished that area, Lashaway?
Oh yeah, I've covered it pretty well. Yeah.
So you know, as you go right, there's almost like a little lawn. There's a couple lawn chairs there that like these two old guys always sit there with like their bobbers and fucking shiners or worms, whatever the fuck they're using.
Oh yeah.
And dude, I caught like maybe 2 or 3 decent ones like back to back. And one of the
remember this.
I think I told this story.
I think I
told this story. Yeah. So he just picks up his chair, dude, comes right over to the dam, dude. Just starts casting right where I've been casting. I'm like, are you fucking kidding? Like, and it's like you're some old guy. So I didn't fucking say anything. And I could see him on the live scope. I knew there was no more in there, so I was like, "Have at it, dude." So I moved down and I kept an eye on. He didn't catch shit in there. So
that's always the best. Like, a lot of people will like. It's so funny, man. There's a saying that I love. You could throw the wrong bait where there's fish and still catch them.
Oh, you know,
100%. But like they got to be there. That is 100%. That's absolutely the situation. But there are some times, man, where like you will be catching them and they're just picky, you know, and it's got to be the right thing. So who knows? Man, that's fucking crazy. Yeah, it hasn't happened to me for a while because I tend to be a dick. People will come fishing near me, and I'm just like, yeah, I wasn't fishing here at all, man. What are you doing? Hey, go ahead, enjoy yourself. And then I'll generally, like, I might walk away from the spot and let them have it. Sometimes I'll just take a big fucking rock or a log and throw it in the water and then walk away.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, who's going to outdouche who, asshole? You know? You're talking to King
motherfucking douche.
right here. Do what I got to do. Yeah, that is super shitty. That is super, super shitty. So, yeah, fuck those guys. And fuck you if you're one of those folks that's like, oh, there's fish over there. This guy's catching them.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, if I see people with bent rods and they're just laying into them, when they get off a spot, I will go to that
Go
spot.
check it out. Go check it out.
I'll
Yeah.
go over to that spot because you might be able to pick some off that they don't, especially if you're like downsizing or something.
Yeah,
You know, and a lot of times that'll work. Like I'll just go and I'll take, if I see them over there and I see like they're using bait casters or whatever, I'm like, okay, we're going to throw a wacky or a drop shot and we'll see what we can pick off, you know?
Yep.
Give it, 10 minutes or so to kind of cool down. And then when those fish are just like, okay, cool, they're gone. Oh, look, a worm, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it pays off. Yeah, that's a little bit janky. That's an interesting one. But we're going to go and toss over to our next segment, which is the beef seat segment, our interview segment. And this week we have a guest, Justin Makin, a Central Florida-based bass fishing guide who has, you can follow him on Making Big Bass Memories on Instagram and on TikTok. He's also got a YouTube channel as well. And he gets out there with some clients and catches some pretty big fish. So if you're in South Florida or if you're in Central Florida or plan to be, to get away from the cold this winter, go hit up Justin. But we had a great conversation. He shares some fun stories, and it's a blast. You're going to love it. So we'll see you guys on the backside of that when we wrap things up. We'll see you. Don't go too far. Hey guys, Bobby Roast Beef here from Jigs and Bigs. If there's one thing I can't stand spending money on, it's on something that's not versatile, something that I can't get a lot of use out of. I want to talk to you about Frost Buddy. What Frost Buddy is it's one of those can coolers. I've seen these before. In fact, I have some that are limited to only fitting one specific size of can, like a standard 12-ounce can. I stumbled onto Frost Buddy, and I was blown away with it. So versatile. Fits standard cans, tall cans, slim cans, and even 12-ounce bottles. And the magic is the insert fits all of these items in various stages within the insert. And when you take that out, you can fit a full 16-ounce tall boy can. In fact, it even doubles down on being versatile with the coffee lid. And on my recent trip to Chickamauga, I had a field day with this thing. I was throwing beer cans in it. I'd have coffee in the morning. On the drive, I was throwing in all different sizes of cans for different canned coffee products to keep me awake on the long drive back. The thing was amazing. So I recommend you check out Frost Buddy. If you're in the market for either a travel cup for your coffee or a can cooler at all, either one of those, check it out. For the money, you cannot go wrong. What I've done is this. In the show notes for this podcast you're listening to right now, if you look there, you'll find a link to Frost Buddy where you can get yours. And not only can you go and get your Frost Buddy there, but you can help out the show as well. Go and visit that link in the show notes to this podcast. Check out a Frost Buddy. Tons of colors, tons of patterns, all kinds of great stuff. And it's a great spot to put your Jigs and Bigs sticker too. Take it from me, Bobby Roast Beef. You're going to get the most versatility out of this one product, probably out of anything you're ever going to buy, especially for anything that you're drinking. Frost Buddy. It works for me. I'm a happy guy. Alrighty, guys. Bobby Roast Beef back here with another interview segment for our podcast here, Jigs and Bigs. We got the one and only Justin Makin in the beef seat this week. Justin is I'll tell you what, for somebody in my position geographically, Justin's a good guy to know because Justin is a Central Florida-based fishing guide. And I'll tell you what, certain parts of the year here, we need your help, Justin. We really do. And that's the appropriate effect right there. Justin, how you doing this morning, man? How's things?
Doing great. It's bright and sunny down here in Florida. Like I told you earlier, it's 86 degrees, and the weather actually is honestly, it's cooling off for us a little bit. And the bite's heating up. The fish are fattening up and getting ready. They're getting ready to go into pre-spawn down here in Florida.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll start spawning in January and February down here, The fish are definitely fattening up and getting ready for that winter time.
And it's so funny, man, the way Florida bass and New England bass are so different because they're fattening up here as well, but they're fattening up here to get real slow for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a whole different kind of fishing. But the reason why this is a benefit is for someone in my position is, geographically in Central Florida, you've kind of got everything everybody wants, either when they retire or if they're looking to get off of hard water in these cold months up here. So, let's go ahead. Let's start from the beginning. Talk about you as an angler first. We'll dive into the guide portion of it as we kind of move throughout, but kind of introduce everybody to kind of how you fell in love with fishing. You mentioned earlier in the pre-interview that you were originally from Ohio. Was fishing what brought you down to Florida?
Absolutely. Well, the number one thing that brought me to Florida was the weather. If you ask most people why they moved to Florida, it is because of the weather. It's hotter than 80s in the summertime, and it's beautiful down here in the wintertime. So we're kind of the exact opposite. We live for the winters down here, and we hate the summers. But the fishing down here is spectacular, especially here in Central Florida. And I started out fishing when I was 5 years old. Been fishing for years. Grew up in Ohio, fishing Lake Erie, Lake Sinclair, a lot of smallmouth lakes. Also doing a lot of bass tournaments up there.
There you go.
Fish Lake Chautauqua in New York, Presque Isle. A lot of phenomenal fisheries up there. I miss those smallmouth bass, and I do miss my deer hunting up there. But other than that, I love Florida. I love the weather down here. We can do it year round. It's just we don't have no smallmouth bass to chase around down here.
I'll be honest with you. At least you've got peacock bass to be able to dry those smallmouth tears on.
Yeah.
Right. You guys have something very unique. There's probably not a single interview I do with somebody that's not from Florida, that doesn't mention like, oh, I'd love to go catch a peacock. That's on the short list of everybody. So that's a pretty decent trade-off, I would say.
It is. And peacock bass down here in Central Florida, they actually tried to introduce them to Central Florida here about 3 to 4 years ago. And they just wouldn't take the winters down here in Central Florida. Our winters, even though we do stay warm, our water temps fall into the 50s and 60s in the wintertime here. And they won't survive the winters here in Central Florida. So I have a good friend who also guides down in Jupiter, Florida. And he has peacock bass in his lake. In his golf course ponds, and it's about a 2-hour drive south. If you really want to get into them good and heavy, you got to go down. Really down towards Miami. Miami's kind of the hotbed for peacock bass here, and pretty much just anywhere in South Florida. But if you really want to catch the big ones, you got to head way south and go down to Argentina, Brazil, and that's when you get into those 20 to 30 pound range fish.
Yeah, those are absolute giants, whole other beast. So let's talk a little bit about the guiding. How long have you been guiding for?
So I've been guiding for over 14 years now down here in Central Florida. Moved down here 14 years ago from Northeast Ohio. Grew up smallmouth fishing bass tournaments, and absolutely loved it. Moved down here, like I said, 14 years ago. I was a guide for Disney, part-time guide for Disney for about 6.5, almost 7 years of that time.
No kidding. I didn't realize that Disney had their own guide.
Yeah, a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't realize it. It is something that's very unique to Disney, and it is fun to do. But I do encourage people to do both, because there's a lot of cool experiences here in Central Florida that you can do outside of Disney and Universal, and literally be anywhere on any body of water, including Toho, Johns Lake, Lake Apopka, a lot of the big name lakes here in Central Florida. You can be anywhere within 20 to 30 minutes when you fly into Orlando and you're staying on Disney property or Universal. There's just so much versatility with our fishing here, and the fishing is absolutely phenomenal. And for the most part, it is phenomenal throughout the entire year. I would say our toughest months are probably July, August, and September. Our hottest months down here in Florida. It can be tough to get bit during those months sometimes, just because it is so hot. Those fish, our water temps, I've seen them rise as high as 91 to 92 degrees down here.
I can't even imagine.
It's hard on the fish. It's hard on the fish. It's hard on the people, hard on the guides down here. So it's a tough season.
Definitely.
So now we're starting to get into those cooler fall months.
Yep.
Those fish are really starting to feed up, get fat. And like I was explaining to you earlier, our spawn will start in January and February down here. And that's really going to kick off the peak season for us down here.
Oh, definitely.
And we catch a lot of giants January, February. And honestly, the peak time seems to be right around the end of February, beginning of March.
Yeah.
Right when they're finishing up spawning and they're really done spawning and they're really chewing. And that seems to be the peak time for numbers, size, everything. Right around the end of February, beginning of March.
That's good.
But it is, I will tell you, as from a guide standpoint, it is tough finding guides down here in February and March because we typically are so booked up. I mean,
that's what I would assume. You guys probably take your bookings like a year or 2 years ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have people that come over from the UK, come from Canada, all over the US, all over the world that literally will book sometimes a year to 2 years even out. And I put it on my calendar and I'm like, hey, I'm not going to charge you a deposit, obviously being that far out. I just ask people to be respectful when they do book because I really don't like taking deposits because of COVID, the situation with COVID and having to refund money and all that. It's not something that we want to do as guides. Really, we really just want to get you on the water and get you on fish.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it is a necessity because unfortunately, when you get into that March and April time frame, we are so booked up with trips. It's like if someone cancels a trip, a lot of times we can fill it in with another really fast, but it is challenging for sure.
It's funny in my business. I work in the events industry. You mentioned COVID and everything. Like, I got hammered in two different ways actually during COVID, but primarily, it's you're right. There is a challenge. Like, you would love to not. I have friends in my business that are like, I stopped taking deposits, and I'm like, you're insane, because there's only so much real estate on the calendar. I've got friends that are tattoo artists that are just like, I just had to start taking deposits. Too many people would flake, and it is a challenge because you don't want to take. I don't know. It seems like some people have an issue with taking money up front and buying that real estate, but like it's. When you're talking about a season, like, you've got a window of time that is generally going to get booked out. You want to know the people that you're putting on your books are serious about it. And sometimes a financial agreement's the best way to do it. That's nuts. So 2 years out, I could totally understand that. But that's got to be crazy for the average snowbird like me. That's like, I want to go down south and get out of this cold weather when you've got to do something. Walk us through the typical experience of one of your clients when you take them out on a trip. Like, what can they expect when they go out with you?
So if you're coming down here in January, February, and March, you can pretty much expect, a 20 to 30 fish day for a 4-hour trip for two people.
Oh, wow.
I've had two people catch as many as 68 fish in 4 hours. And that is just, that's running out of bait and throwing everything you got at them.
Yeah.
But it's spectacular down here during those months. It is more challenging during the hotter summer months like July, August, and September.
Oh, for sure.
I wouldn't lie to some people on that. A good day in July, August, and September, you might be looking at 10 to 12 fish up for a good day.
Yeah.
But you come down here during the peak season, January, February, March, even April.
Definitely.
You're looking at usually a 20 to 30 fish day easy. Average fish is probably 3 to 4 pounds. You're definitely going to have a shot if you come down in January, February, and March at 8 pound plus fish. Last year, the peak of it was really right around the end of February, beginning of March. That's typically been the way it's been for the past couple years. But I did 5 trips in a row with 5 fish all over 8 pounds. The last week of February, first week of March is it's spot on. And it is just, you have an opportunity catching a lot of fish over 8 pounds.
Sure.
Down here in Florida, we have a great program put on by Florida Fish and Wildlife. It's called the Florida Trophy Catch Program. If you catch a fish over 8 pounds in the state of Florida and you have a valid Florida freshwater fishing license, and you can catch it on artificial, you can catch it fishing with a guide, you can catch it as long as you catch a fish and you legally register it with on a scale, the full weight on the scale, the length, where you caught it at. The more information, the better. They use it as a census to, if you were really looking at they use it as a census to really monitor where these fish are being caught at and stuff, and the productivity of the lakes. So it is very important to register a lot of that information. And they'll send you a $25 gift card to Bass Pro Shops. And you can also get entered to win a $54,000 Phoenix Bass boat at the end of the year that Phoenix gives away. It's really similar to the Texas Share Lunker program.
Yeah, that's how I was going to say. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, it's very similar to the Texas Share Lunker program. Like I said, between Texas and Florida, we go back and forth all the time. I know a lot of people that live in Texas that come here to fish. Sure. I also know a lot of guides out in Texas as well. So a lot of guides, a lot of us network with a lot of other guides too.
Yep.
So I was going to touch on that for just a minute. I have a lot of good friends that I'm really good friends with that are guides.
Yep.
That when we're booked up and we're really busy, we share work with one another, because I will only do that with certain guys just because I know their mindset and how they look at things. There's others that are good and there's others that are not so good, but we really try to share work with one another and keep each other busy, because we all know we all know when you get to that August, September time frame, tourism really dies here in Florida. It's hot. Everyone's going back to school, getting ready for school. It's tough. I mean, it is being a guide. A lot of people ask me about it, and it's tough. It's like riding an economic roller coaster. It's definitely an up and down job,
for sure.
And I'm grateful because my beautiful wife, who works at home, allows me to do this job because she carries my healthcare. I mean, that is so important when you run a business and everything else. Healthcare is paramount. And it's so expensive and so hard on small business owners to be able to do this and be able to afford to,
definitely
with the cost of healthcare.
It's bananas.
Yeah, it's very important when you're a guide down here to have a good support system. I mean, it's definitely, if you don't have a good support system and someone who's not supportive of doing what you love to do, it can be very tough to get into this industry and stay busy with it. So
it's so funny too, because like I this year I came to the realization, like, if there's something that I wanted to do in the world of fishing, it would be act as a guide. And it's because of the bringing people out and giving them like the experience, overall. And while like right now, there's not a single body of water and around me, anybody cares about fishing. Like it's some sort of a destination or anything, but there isn't a single body of water where I've got the level of experience in necessarily to be able to use that as a weighing point. So I've kind of got that on the back burner. Like someday, hey, maybe we'll get there. But there is a certain element of that. And the reason why I think I would enjoy it so much is that the service end of it. Like you had just said, you're like, so this happens all the time in my business where somebody might approach me for a date for their event. It might be a wedding or a fundraiser or something like that. And they've got something going on and I'm not able to help them, but I've got a list of people that I know that are reliable in the industry that I can say, hey, you can call these 3 or 4 people and send them your way. Let them know that I sent you over there. And then I know that they'll be in good hands, and vice versa. It happens with me. I get so much work from people who have stuff going on and they say, I'm not available, but I know this guy is going to over deliver. And he's going to do well, and he's going to, he's going to represent me well, so I don't look bad referring him.
Exactly.
And that's a huge, huge deal. Like a lot of times there are folks that will they compete with each other. But the reality of it is there's plenty of work out there. If you work together, everybody's books are going to be full and everybody's going to have happy clients, mostly. Because I'll ask you about some of the nightmares too, because I'm sure that there are some. But it's just one of those things where it's like, it's one of those deals. Now, I've only been out with a guide a handful of times, and both times it was an amazing experience. In fact, the first time I had gone out with a guide, it was Caleb Bell on the Chickamauga that we had fished up there. And I had said to him, I was like, look, I go, can you recommend like any place that I should stay that's nearby or anything? And I don't know if this is sort of part of his evil plan, but he sent me to a spot that was perfect for me to stay because it was an Airbnb, but it was above a really amazing tackle shop. And Justin, I spent so much money there on stuff that I haven't seen. A lot of JDM stuff. It was a little ridiculous, but it was great, and it was just overall it was an amazing experience. And I try to inspire people to get out and travel. If you work a regular job and you've got that vacation time, you're not getting any younger. Take that trip. Take that long weekend with the boys or your entire family and go and do something like this. Because if you're going to go fish one of the bodies of water that you're experienced in, and you don't have 7 days to bring your own boat and your own gear and everything else out there, why would you waste the time to try to do it all in one day? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And just to touch on that, there's a lot of, when you come to Florida, there's a lot of options. You have a ton of options with guides, fresh and saltwater.
Yep.
So you can also rent boats. People rent boats, and
for sure.
And I never, as a guide, try to rub anything into anyone's face. But some people will come down here and they'll rent a boat because they don't want to get a guide, and they'll rent a boat, and it might cost them $50 to $100 less to rent a boat without a guide.
To get a guide, yeah.
And without even live bait or anything. And then they come in and they go, "Oh, how'd you do?" And I was like, "Oh, we caught 20 or 30." And like, "Oh, really?" I mean, there's a lot that goes into guiding that people don't see. I mean, we spend, as a guide, in March and April, I'm spending 50 to 60 hours a week on the water.
Oh yeah.
And I will tell you, the technology that we are fishing with nowadays is better than what it ever has been.
For sure.
And I mean, and there's pros and cons to all that. But I will tell you, as from a guide standpoint, you can watch them all day on active target. I could sit there and watch them all day swimming around me on active target.
Yep.
And if they don't want to bite, they ain't going to bite. So,
amen, brother. Amen.
People ask me one of the number one questions I get, what's the most important thing? I said, honestly, being in the right spot at the right time. You can be in the right spot all day long, and you can be there at the wrong time, and you can't get bit. But you can go to that right spot at the right time, and you can pair them. So that is very important and key with fishing. It's not so much about, in my opinion, about the technology. And I ask a lot of people a lot of questions on this because, I've seen active target people that use a lot of it, and I've seen people that don't use a lot of it. And you can watch gar, you can watch bass, but it's not going to tell you what that fish is on that active target.
Yeah,
and you can get so excited seeing that fish come up and eat it, and you can also be so disappointed when you get to that
when
fish
it gets
to the boat, and it's a 30-some foot gar. Now is the fight fun? Absolutely,
for sure.
But when you're looking for a 10 or 12 pound bass, it definitely the moral to all this is it definitely pays, in my opinion, really hire a guide, a professional that knows the waters, knows the areas. And it also, the reputation, I mean, the reviews, read people's reviews, and also reach out to the guide, talk to the guide.
I think that's the best thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I love people that reach out and call me on the phone and talk to me, and they want to ask me questions because I know those people are really interested. It's really tough when people just book stuff on we'll say like an app like Fish Booker or Fish Anywhere. I'm not downplaying those apps at all. They're good. But in my opinion, if I'm going to spend $300, $400, $500 on a guide, I would rather talk to that individual and really get a feel for what he's telling me and what I want to do. Because there's so many people that come down here with an aspect, I want to artificial fish, or I want to shiner fish, or I don't want to do shiners, I just want to artificial fish. There are, as a guide, we need to know all that. It helps. The more information I have as a guide, it helps to make the experience better for the individual who's booking the trip.
Definitely.
So.
No, that makes a ton of sense, and I would agree wholeheartedly. Like the convenience of those apps and everything is there, but I think that having a conversation beforehand is just it is just the way to go. It also sets lets you know what you can do for options and things like that. Like you mentioned, shiner fishing. I didn't realize in the guiding world how big live bait fishing actually was, and there's just times a year where it just performs. And let's be honest, I in my uneducated, very naive mind, I think there's essentially two different clients that are out there. You have clients who are out there to experience a body of water with somebody who's got enough experience to be able to, if nothing else, find fish, so that you're not running out there blind, like throwing to every single tree or every rock you find on your electronics or something like that. So this way you kind of have an idea of that body of water. And then I think you have people that go out there with an agenda, like they're looking to catch a teener. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Am I close to accurate with that statement, Justin?
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? You know what the most funniest thing is, and this is the one I find this to be one of the most funniest things is a lot of guys will take their wives out fishing and they want to catch a big one, and the wives get on the boat with them and they're going, man, why does my wife always catch the big one? And I said, I wish I could tell you that. I wish I had an answer for you, but I will tell you. It's legit that 70 to 80% of the women that get on the boat with a husband or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, they are going to catch them. And if it's it's a younger child who's a girl, she's going to waylay on.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you the amount of stories, just laugh out loud stories that I have between men versus women and fishing.
Oh yeah.
And it's just crazy. But I will tell you, back to your point about catching a double digit and stuff like that. It definitely seems like, there are a lot of people. I get calls sometimes that people will call me and they go, can you guarantee me a double digit fish? And I said, you know what? I said, honestly, I wish I could.
Yeah.
But I said, I can't guarantee you a double digit fish. But I said, I will guarantee you that I'm going to put you on some fish somewhere in that 4-hour period. I've been a guide down here for 14 years. I've guided thousands of trips over 14 years, and I've never had a paying customer get on the boat and not catch anything in 14 years.
Oh, that's a great record.
Yeah, I would be lying to you if completely lying to you if I said I didn't have tough days as a guide and the fish didn't want to cooperate and different things like that. I would be completely lying. I mean, some days are obviously better than others, but I've never had a paying customer in over 14 years of guiding down here, going on 15 years, not catch anything. That being said, as far as double digits, 10-pound plus fish, even though we're fishing here in Florida, they are tough to come by a lot of times.
For sure. Yeah.
But you're fishing, if you really want to catch that double digit, you want to come in that January, February, March, even the April time frame.
Yep. That likelihood is even better.
Fish. During the other months, it's possible, but it's not as probable. We'll just say it's not as probable.
Yeah.
But I've caught so many 7, 8, 9-pound fish down here. It's just, when people don't realize how big an 8 or 9-pound fish really is until you put that on a scale. And I've had so many people that that's my PB, that's my biggest fish, and it's 6.5, 7 pounds. And don't get me wrong, fabulous
fish,
but they think it's a 10-pound fish, and it's like, yeah. Because I have a good eye for things. A lot of guys do, but I will tell you, that's phenomenal. Hands down, a lot of it is just and that's why I like talking to my guests, because some guys, some people are like, hey, I'm taking my son fishing. When should I start him out? And I always recommend. I've had them start out as 4 and 5 years old, and that's about the minimum. You want them to be about 4 or 5 years old. And I've had some 7 or 8 year olds just go out there and just waylay the fish, and they have such a good time. And I think it's important as a guide. I try to, in a 4-hour period, I try to put people on numbers and also size. I want people to catch numbers to keep, especially if there's a kid involved, to keep their attention.
Yeah, you want them to be
and then
engaged.
The size, we'll finish it off with the size. But the biggest thing is I've had so many kids down here that come down here, and one of my favorite questions to ask them is, "What's the funnest thing you've done on your vacation?" When they get on the boat, and a lot of them will say, "Oh, Guardians of the Galaxy ride over at Epcot, some of these rides," and then they get on the boat, and then I asked them at the end of the trip, I said, "So what's the favorite thing you've done now?" And they're like, "Yeah, we got to do this every year," because a lot of families, how you were talking, take the time with your kids to do those extra special things and go on those guided trips with your kids, because those are the things that the kids are going to remember for the rest of their lives. A lot of them, and especially if they manage to catch an 8-pound, a 10-pound bass. I mean,
oh my God. Yeah.
And they're in complete disbelief,
Yep.
And I love seeing it happen. It's just sometimes the dads when they see the fish jump, the dads will be like, "Oh my gosh, did you see the size of that fish?" And I'm like, and the dad and this kid's like, "I don't know if I can reel it, Dad." And the first thing I do is I look at the parent and I go, "Don't you touch that rod."
Yes,
let that kid reel that fish.
Yep.
Because there's so many times that the parents want to get involved in it, and then it's like, you know what?
That's when they mess something up.
He's going to lose it, but you got to give him the opportunity to get it in.
Yeah.
So
he hooked it. Let him get him to the boat.
Absolutely,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's awesome, man. So let's talk about some of those nightmare stuff. Like, what is that go-to story when you're talking with another guide and you're maybe somebody who's just brand new to the area or something, or just got into it, and you're like, I got to tell you the story about this one trip. And I've heard on other podcasts about like fly fishing guides, they'll bring somebody out and like they'll have that client that like just pees in the waders. Like that, that kind of stuff. I'm curious, like what happened. And we had an episode where, I don't know if you're familiar with the name Al Gag. He's a local guy who's kind of he this past year he was actually inducted in the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame. Right. We had him on the show, and he shared a story about this. He shouldn't have been operating as a guide for his buddy. But it was just a mess. I'm afraid if I repeat too much, I'll get canceled.
Right.
It's ridiculous. Right. But Justin, what's your go-to nightmare client story?
Honestly, the biggest thing that I have trouble with with a fair amount of guests are when they hook a big fish. And this is a nightmare with a lot of guys because they hook a big fish, and I got the drag set on the reel. And I said, and I remind them when I get the fish over by the boat, I said, whatever you do not grab. I said, you get that fish over here by the boat. I said, the first thing that a lot of these big fish will do is they'll take a run right beside the boat. Yep. And I said they're either going to load up the rod and they're going to try to snap the line. I said, a lot of them do it if you don't get them wore out. I said, do not grab the line. Do not grab the top of the spool and try to jam up the reel. I said, let these fish run. They have to wear themselves out.
Yeah.
And I will tell you on multiple occasions, even reminding people of that, and they're so excited in the moment. It's like, just let them run. Let them run. And a lot of these fish will get them over by the boat, and they're notorious for doing it, especially the big ones. They'll get over by the boat. They'll see me with the net, and the first thing they do is go right underneath the boat. Or they go. Yeah. A lot of times I'll reach over and I'll trim the engine up because I'm trimming the engine up because I don't want them to hit the stainless steel prop.
Exactly. Yep.
So, I said, let them run. And that is the biggest thing that I tell a lot of people and stuff about guiding. And it just, please listen to us as guys. We're there to help you. Please listen to us because there's so many people that I've seen get a fish over by the boat. The first thing they do is they see that big fish and then they either grab the line or they put their hand on top of the spool of the spinning reel and they stop that spool from running. And I've watched them, they'll load the rod right up underneath the boat and they'll snap the line right at the boat.
Man, that
is a tough pill to swallow when you lose an 8-pound plus fish right beside the boat. It
is.
It's tough. But as far as, I have had a couple people also, because a lot of people don't realize this, but there's a big difference between freshwater and saltwater guiding. A lot of the people that fish freshwater, they don't realize, they think, I'm going with a guide, I'm going with a licensed captain, I don't need a freshwater fishing license. Well, fresh and saltwater licenses are totally different. If you're fishing on saltwater, your captain's license you're covered by the U.S. Coast Guard because you're on international waters. Freshwater is totally different. FWC doesn't recognize that. They will come out, they will check your license. And last year I did have a guy that fished, and there was 2 of them in the boat, and he did not get his license, and he said, I forgot. And I texted him the night before, and he ended up the FWC officer gave him a ticket for $120. But the guy was very responsible. He didn't get on me a hard time about it as a guide. He says, he reminded me, it's my fault, I didn't do it.
Exactly.
Not a big deal. He still took care of me, gave me a tip, everything. Super nice guy. But it is one of those things that it is a little different with freshwater and saltwater. And I'm very upfront with people, when they say, hey, do I need a valid Florida freshwater fishing license? I'm like, yeah, even though licensed captains here in the state of Florida and you're on freshwater inland lakes, they do require you to get that Florida freshwater fishing license. And it also goes to support local fish and wildlife. Plus, you're also getting an opportunity to register that fish to the Florida Trophy Catch program, because that is a great program. A lot of phenomenal prizes with that. A lot of people love that, getting that $25 Bass Pro Shops gift card in the mail. It's super. I can't tell you enough. I really appreciate Florida Fish and Wildlife for doing that and things. But yeah, I absolutely, those are just a couple of the stories. I've never had any knock on wood, I've been grateful over the past 14 years. I've never had anyone go falling over the side of the boat or anything super crazy.
Oh my God. I saw it yesterday. It happened. I was on the water. Another boat.
Yeah.
Yep, there was a guy standing, and it was cold. Water temps were probably in the low 50s. Air temp was 40 at the time. This clown climbs over full windshield on this boat, climbs over the full windshield, and it's not like this was a fishing boat with a front casting deck. He's standing on the bow, taking a leak over the boat, and I was like, I think these guys might be a little intoxicated. I'm not sure. It was 11 a.m., 11 in the morning. And this guy, I heard a little commotion. I look over. This dude's dancing on the top deck or something. I watched him fall in. I grabbed the trolling motor, picked it up, and I went over to my seat on the boat, started up the outboard. And by that time, they had maneuvered to get him to the side. And I was like, oh, I'm recording this because they got him. They got him. But I'm like, what a bunch of dumbasses. I couldn't believe it.
Oh, you see, I will tell you, I see a lot of that at the boat ramp.
I believe it.
And honestly, it's a shame. There's a lot of issues with public intoxication here in Florida and all over. And people ask me, one of the questions I get is, oh, can I bring beer on the boat? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Come out, have a couple beers, have a good time. I'm all for that. I said, if you're going to bring a case of beer, a 24-pack of beer on the boat for 4 hours, hey, please
I got an 800 number you can call.
Please drink responsibly. Because I will tell you, if you get drunk and you become a safety issue to me or
yourself,
I'm going to take you back in.
Definitely.
I'm going to pull a judgment call and take you back in. I've never had to do that in the 14 years I've been guiding down here.
That's good.
Everyone's been respectful of the amount of alcohol they consume and different things like that. And I'm all for having a good time, going out, having a beer, just dragging some bait around or catching some bass. I'm all for that. It's just, I don't want it to become a safety issue to myself or a liability to myself or my business by not taking care of an issue that, could be a problem.
No, absolutely. And I've heard stories from other folks where they're like, yeah, I don't allow any alcohol on the boat because there was an instance where something happened or something. But 14 years is a really good stretch for there not to be any kind of an issue.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm so grateful for that. One of the other things I could tell you is that I absolutely, taking the kids fishing, you talk about a lot of the rewarding situations and taking kids and doing trips, because I do a wood trip or two for Make-A-Wish every year.
That's awesome.
And that's, completely just sponsored trip through Make-A-Wish. I don't charge anything for that. Just, and some of the stuff you get back from those kids is priceless. So
100%.
I will tell you, that it is a very, it's an awesome experience. And being a guide, there's a lot of positive with it. I would say, honestly, the biggest negative with it, to be absolutely honest with you, and I tell a lot of people this, is people think guiding is nothing but fishing. And I had a kid probably 2 weeks ago. He goes, how much do you get to fish in a day? And I said, well, how much did you see me fish today? And he says, well, I didn't see you fish at all. And I said, believe me, I love to fish just as much as you do. But when I'm out here, I'm on the water with you guys, it's all about making your experience the best possible experience you can have. Getting you on the most fish, getting you on the biggest fish that I can possibly put you on, and keeping that experience great. Because that's how my business grows, with positive feedback from a lot of my guests and keeping a good reviews and all that. And I said, the flip side of it is, the negative side of this industry is people don't realize the hours that I spend as an individual going home and spend on social media like Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok.
Because you got to do it all.
I do it all. I do it all. I get a lot of people that want to do advertising and marketing for me, and they're just. I personally, I won't pay someone to do it. I've made it with myself, made an agreement with myself that I'm not going to pay someone to do my advertising and marketing. I do it all myself. The only thing I do advertise on is I do advertise on FishBooker and Fish Anywhere.
Yeah.
And the only reason I do those sites, and I feel that, I do those sites, is because they get paid if they book me a trip. So if they're reaching more individuals that I'm not reaching, so be it. I don't mind paying for companies to do that. I just don't like the advertising agencies that come out that, we're going to double your business, we're going to get you more business, and then they just don't deliver, and it's $350 or $400 a month, and then you're paying a lot of money.
Same thing with me, man.
You can spend a lot of money on advertising, and it cannot get you anywhere. So I believe in companies like FishBook or Fish Anywhere, and I'll ask a lot of the advertising companies, can you guarantee me X amount of trips? And I said, I have no problem if they say, hey, that trip's being sent to you by this company. Can you guarantee me, work? And they'll say no. And I said, well, then no offense. I mean, I don't need you.
Yeah, exactly. And the nice thing too is, like, especially with something like FishBooker, like those apps are listings and ways to promote to an audience that is already looking for guided trips.
Right.
Versus like even throwing something on, Facebook or Instagram or anything like that. It's a much, much wider net, and it's more of a challenge. At least in there, it's a focus group and it kind of makes sense. I think, and I'll bet you, I'd be willing to bet it's probably the same situation. The best clients that you have probably come from referrals.
Yeah. And honestly, word of mouth. Yep. I mean, I got kids that have been fishing with me that I've seen grow up. I mean, they're literally 4 and 5 years old, and now they're 16, 17 years old.
Oh yeah.
And it's like they've been fishing with me for years.
And you're going to see, they're going to be out there, and then they'll be out there with their own kids. And like, when you get to like year 20, everything's going to change. You're going to be like, holy crap. I can't believe, like, I was out fishing with your grandfather initially, and then it's just nuts, man. It's absolutely bananas. I love that, dude. I think that is freaking awesome. Now, you had mentioned touching on like people falling out of the boat or anything. The state of Florida, in that pocket of the country, is not a place somebody as supple and tender as I would want to fall out of a boat, because I would make a fantastic meal for a gator. What's your experience like with gators?
That's honestly the number one or number two question I get.
I bet
down here, and I've been around alligators, and dealt with them for 14 years down here.
Yep. I've
never once had a gator try to attack a guest, get in the boat, anything like that.
Yeah.
I also, and people don't believe me on this, but I said I get in and swim in the lakes down here with my kids and my wife. And I will tell you that there's certain times that I would not do it. Obviously, early in the morning, late at night. Gators are nocturnal hunting and feeding animals. They do hunt mostly instinctively. They don't have as great an eyesight as what you think. But typically, alligators are not going to attack people.
Yeah.
Most people who get bit by alligators are getting bit because they're doing something they shouldn't be doing, like feeding them, approaching a gator and getting too close to take a picture, or feeding them. I tell people the biggest thing you got to worry about here in Florida, honestly, and you got to keep an eye on, is the snakes, the water moccasins.
Oh, I can believe that.
The snakes are bad down here. You don't. The snakes scare me. I would rather fall into a lake full of gators than a lake full of snakes, because I watched way too much Indiana Jones when I was a kid, and the Temple of Doom and all that stuff. Me and snakes we don't get along. So I tell people, as far as alligators go, I've never seen an alligator in the 14 years I've been living down here and swimming in the lakes and everything. I've never had a gator come up and try to get in the boat or attack a guest or anything like that. Most of if you watch most of the news and the different things, for instance, that kid that got killed probably 3 or 4 years ago over at Disney, there was a lot of extenuating circumstances that led up to that unfortunate accident. And there was just a lot of things that played into that. It happened at night. It happened over the Grand Floridian. The kid was playing in the water. It was also during mating season, so they can be a little bit more aggressive during mating season. But there was just a lot of extenuating circumstances. And they did find the kid a few days later. The kid was not chewed up. He was completely intact. No chew marks or anything.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they did find the kid, and it was a sad situation, a very sad situation. Obviously, I mean, my daughter surfs. It's just the same with surfers and sharks. I always tell my daughter, if you're in the water and you see bait fish, get the heck out of there, especially if there's sharks around, because your chances of getting bit when they're in there feeding are a lot
way
higher.
Yeah.
You throw something in the water around a fish that's feeding, you don't want to be between a fish and its food. It's kind of like being between a dog and his and his food.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
But as far as gators go, a lot of people do worry about them. A lot of people are encouraged to see them. They like to see them, but they do usually stay their distance. They stay their distance. And one of the biggest things is they get hunted just like deer do up north. They have hunting seasons for them down here, which keeps them to be respectful of people and mindful of people as well. They're not usually very curious of people. The problem is when they're younger, a lot of the younger gators are very curious and they'll come up to people. But they usually, as they get older and mature, they learn quick. They learn really fast and they shy away from people.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's crazy to me. And like, I think that a lot of northern anglers think like, oh, I'm going to throw a buzzbait or a whopper plopper and a gator's going to come and grab it. And then what am I going to do here? And I think I've actually seen a couple of videos where somebody was like reeling in a fish and the gator grabbed the fish.
Well, you actually, if you watch my YouTube and some of the stuff on Instagram, I had Jared Sullivan, who's a good friend of mine who owns Copper Red Baits, and he makes Copper Red frogs and stuff. He come down and fished with me, and he actually caught about probably 2.5 to maybe 3 foot gator on a frog.
Oh wow!
And it was kind of funny because we actually used the footage and it said we said gator tested, gator approved. Yeah, because that gator, he had it in his mouth and he didn't want to let it go, and he was trying to pull it off, trying to snap the line. And I was going to get a towel because I usually grab a towel. People always ask me, like, why do you keep a towel on the boat? I said, for the gators. And I said, I joke around with people, but it's true. I said, between the gators and the birds down here, you have to be a little bit of a wildlife wrangler, because the last thing I want to do is, even as a fishing guide, there's a lot of controversy with, I know, between people who fish and hunt and people who don't. But people who fish and hunt and guides, we are very actually conservative about nature. We want to take care of our resources and the things that pay our bills. Because I get a lot of people that ask me, hey, can you keep the fish? And I said, well, yeah, you can. But I said, you can't keep anything over 22 inches. You can't keep any trophy fish. I said, they got to be over 12 inches, under 22. Yep. And I said, you can only keep 5 a day. But I said, I do encourage catch and release because, I don't believe in keeping the things that pay my bills.
Of course, yeah.
So, there's a lot of cool instances with those alligators down here with the smaller ones. And it was a cool little clip, and he didn't intentionally try to catch the gator, but that gator was hard on that frog.
That's awesome.
He wanted it bad. So,
that's amazing marketing. You just kind of like stumble right into that way.
Yeah.
That's freaking awesome, man. I love that. You mentioned earlier that you used to do tournaments. Do you still compete in any tournaments? Is there any trail that you're a member of, or is that?
So, yes, I do. I do local events. There's a tournament every Wednesday night on one of the lakes I guide on. And you can bet one of the first things they do is check my live wells and make sure I don't have any fish or any bait in there.
Of course.
But one of the things people ask me, one of the other questions I get a lot at, what do you do besides fishing? And I said, honestly, I fish. I could spend 7 days a week on the water, sun up to sundown, fishing, and I fish a lot. And when I'm not fishing guiding, I do enjoy fishing tournaments. We fish. They have a Wednesday night tournament. It's like $35, $40 entry fee. You can go out and fish it. and it's a blast. We have a blast doing it. My wife does it with me, and people ask me like, why you fish with your wife all the time, Justin? And I said, well, it's because my wife, for one, she supports me and carries my health care. And I said, for two, I will tell you, I always tell her at the beginning of the trip, I said, all you got to do is catch the big one, because I usually take care of the limit, putting the limit in the boat, and she'll be dragging that Cinco out there behind the boat, that dreaded old Cinco bite that everyone always fears. And then she'll end up hooking a 7 or 8 pounder, and everyone's like, oh, that was a good fish. Who caught that one?
Exactly. That's how it is.
So,
man, I love that.
She's the big fish queen when it comes to a lot of different things. But I really do enjoy fishing with her. She enjoys fishing. Plus, working from home, she's chomping at the bit to get out and do some fishing. But I just do local events. I don't do any out of state stuff. But I do enjoy fishing local events locally here.
And it's nice. You get to scratch that competitive itch a little bit, and put yourself on the water in a different, competing isn't really necessarily my thing, but we run a nationwide multi-species scavenger hunt style tournament up here, and I enter it every single month, regardless of what I've got lined up for trips or anything or where I'm going to be, just to kind of engage myself a little bit with fishing, give myself a little bit of a game to play or mix things up. And I love it. So like dabbling a little bit is great. It's just a fun way to kind of switch things up, especially when your job is fishing with other people. And like you said, they don't see you fish much, but you've got to keep fishing to keep sharp on what they're eating, what's happening with conditions, where they're moving, all kinds of stuff. And that is that's huge. Now, one of the things we talk about on Jigs and Bigs all the time is food. All the time we talk about food. And you've got an interesting situation, because I'm sure this has happened where you've had a client on the boat that just hooked into the biggest bass of their life, new PB. They're losing their mind. They're like, we want to celebrate. Like, we're going to go grab some lunch, something like that. Where is the local mom? Because I'm sure you got some mom and I'm sure you're not sending them to Applebee's. What is the local mom and pop spot that you're like, nope, go here, tell them I sent you?
So that's one of the number one questions I get a lot. Is people ask me, they're like, man, where's a good place to go get some seafood at around here? Obviously, we got some really good places, local places down here. You can go. Polite Pig over at Disney Springs is phenomenal. They have some of the best pulled pork. I mean, the Polite Pig is killer. It's also a little pricey. There's a lot of places over at Disney Springs that got really good food.
Oh, of course.
But the number one question I get is seafood, and I said, honestly, I'm going to be absolutely honest with you. There's a lot of local chain restaurants around here. I hate to say it. We got Red Lobster, a lot of local chain restaurants, but our best seafood restaurants, a lot of times, if you really want to spend the time, or you're going to go to the beach over the East Coast or West Coast, go into a lot of those local businesses, those 100% local businesses, those that have the freshest, best seafood around. And some of the most spectacular, just little small mom and pop restaurants that have the low. I mean, like, I can tell you, people ask me like, yo, do you eat bass? And I said, no, not really. I said, I don't believe, for one, in eating the things that pay my bills. But I can honestly say I've had bass before. I've had dead bass that I took home, cleaned up, otherwise the gators are going to eat them, or
definitely.
So I have eaten them. But they are not, in my opinion. I mean, we got so many good fish down here. Like I said, my buddy lives in Jupiter, mahi, wahoo, grouper, blackfin tuna. Spectacular. Our seafood fish are way better than our freshwater fish. And
I agree.
One of the biggest reasons, and I try to steer people away from eating a lot of the freshwater fish down here, and it's kind of sad, and they're starting to have problems with it too up in Alabama, is they want to, Florida Fish and Wildlife wants to spray a lot of the local lakes down here and control the vegetation. And you don't really have it up north because the winters kill a lot of the vegetation off. Plus,
you'd be surprised.
Yeah, I agree with you. There is a lot up there too, but unfortunately, and I hope that they can find some sort of. I go out to Toho. I've been out to Toho fishing a lot lately. I see 3 or 4 airboats out there spraying chemicals out there, and it's sad because I'll literally come back from Toho. I'll go to wipe my boat off, and I can take my finger and run it down the side, and it looks like grease because the film that scum. And they try to say, oh, it doesn't affect the fish, and it does. We as guides, we've complained about it for years.
Mm-hmm.
You got Mikey Balls is another big advocate for not spraying. He used to live here in Florida, moved up to Gunnersville, and now he's starting to deal. They're starting to deal with the same thing on Gunnersville. They're wanting to spray. The local Fish and Wildlife Management in Alabama wants to spray up there, and they're really trying hard to come up with other options other than spraying. And it's sad because our freshwater quality of fish down here, and the number one reason back to why I kind of tell people not to eat a lot of the freshwater fish is just because I think the waters are so contaminated down here, and it's sad.
Yeah,
because I mean, I grew up fishing Lake Erie, Lake Sinclair, beautifully managed water system, and it just. I mean, for years we were told not to eat so much fish because the mercury and the walleye and the perch and stuff. And I did it for years. My grandpa did it for years.
Yeah.
But down here, it is it's more of an issue down here, I think, with the pollution control, with a lot of the pesticides and stuff that they spray in the water. It's sad. I really wish that they could find a different solution to the problem. So
we've got bodies of water here, many bodies of water that the state has put up advisories as to what some specific people, like what adults, what children, what pregnant women should consume for fish in like a 30-day window. And it's remarkably small what they recommend, like 5 ounces in a month. Is what they recommend. And that's a challenge because there's a lot of folks, and that doesn't count stocked fish, because like up here we've got a really great trout stocking program. In fact, my buddy and I limited out yesterday when we saw that guy fall in the water with a bunch of stocker rainbows. We were throwing little downsized bladed jigs, and they were just like power fishing for trout. It was amazing. And we filled, but they're stockers, so they come in and they're not growing up in that environment. Some of the bodies of water that we have over here, they've got what they call like forever chemicals. They're nearby to like Air Force bases or something like that, where the water is so heavily contaminated that they're like, don't eat anything in here. For whatever reason, they continue to stock it. I don't know if that makes the cut or not, but like it's crazy. And then let alone the industry, the Northeast is chock full of all these mill towns where there was all this industry runoff that went into the river systems and the streams and kind of got all over the place. And you kind of like run the risk. You nailed it when you said saltwater fish are the better fish to eat. I agree, all 100%. That's not to say, but like, I've had bass before. I will say with any freshwater fish, colder water, better flavor. 100%.
And I would 100% agree with you on that.
Yeah.
But like I said, I grew up. I had fish sometimes at least once, sometimes twice a week when I lived up there. I mean, we had fish fries all the time, perch and walleye.
Oh yeah.
And like I said, the biggest things that I miss up there is I love to catch perch and walleye. Those are my eater fish, but the smallmouth were just not. I did one time. I kept a couple. The smallmouth are not good to eat. They're pretty nasty. But
I have a trip coming up to St. Clair this April.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
It's a phenomenal fishery, and like I said, the things that they do. I used to actually go up. This was years ago before you had to have passports to go over the Canadian border. I mean, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And we used to go over and fish the Canadian side on the Walpole Indian Reservation side.
Yep.
And we couldn't keep any fish, but man, we would wear a Terminator wire. We would go through 2 to 3 Terminator spinnerbaits a day. We catch 40 to 50 smallmouth a day on Terminator spinnerbaits up there. And these wear the wires out on them.
Yeah, they're just absolute footballs. That's taking some abuse. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah. But the fishery that they got up there in Waddington and the St. Lawrence, and every year I see it, and the Elite Series goes up there. I'm like, man. So this year, my slowest time is in August. I'm planning on blocking my schedule. I'm going to go up there and do some fishing in Waddington and stay in New York for a week up there in the St. Lawrence. And I got a couple guys that actually live in Canada that fish on the Canadian side up in Ontario and stuff. And they just said that you wouldn't believe the amount of how big the smallmouth are getting. I mean, that place is unbelievable up there, and the way the fishery and the system that they got up there, it's just phenomenal. I mean, when you watch the Elite Series go there and they're weighing 3 or 4 bags over a 3-day period, over 100 and some pounds.
Man.
Not a 3-day period, but over the tournament period, and they're weighing 3 or 4 bags over 100 and some pounds. I mean, that's just unbelievable, a testament to the fishery up there. So.
Oh, for sure. And if you're going, I have a couple recommendations I can make for you if you're going St. Lawrence River. One of the partners of the show that we work with it's actually 3 partners in one. Abe Lure Lab, custom painter out of the Alexandria Bay area of of New York. And they have their own Airbnb, and they have what they call the Ship Motel. And the Ship Motel caters a lot to anglers. It's a great place. There's a boat launch like right across the street. There's apparently my co-host Joe Brown had said that there is a dockside restaurant right there that has the most amazing menu. But I would highly recommend you can head out there and stay out there. And you're right. Like Joe tells me all the time, that I need to get out on that body of water, and it's 100% I need to. I just bought my boat this year, so I'm still getting things laid out. I haven't even put electronics on it yet. We'll get there. But yeah, I'd highly recommend either of those areas. And then when we drop the podcast, there's actually links for both of them that you can check out. And it's freaking unbelievable area. I was coming back from Lake Cayuga and I saw signs for 1,000 islands in Alexandria Bay. And I'm like, should I just go splash the boat on the way home and see what happens? I couldn't because someone stole my license plate off my trailer at the campground I was at. So I needed to get home quick. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
Justin, this has been absolutely phenomenal, man. Thanks very much for sitting down and talking with us and sharing your stories and everything. Do me a favor. I got one question. It's a 2-parter. And what I'm looking for is specifically from your experience, like when you're out on the water, the thing that you were like most proud of. So let's say you go to a wedding one night or something and you're at the bar and somebody's like, yeah, Justin, you like to fish, and there you have that go-to story that you're going to share with somebody. And then I want the story like that's the biggest and not a client folly. I'm talking about your own.
All right. So, I guess one of the most proud moments I had, obviously a lot of them, I mean, I tear up every time I talk about it, but the Make-A-Wish stuff that I do with the kids down here,
I had a feeling you were going to go in this direction.
It's fun. It's phenomenal. I tear up every time I deal with a lot of these kids. I mean, these kids normally wouldn't have an opportunity to do this, or they're just down here on Make-A-Wish and stuff. And how humble a lot of these kids are and getting to do what they do. And it's like, because I see how much kids don't appreciate things. I mean, no offense to a lot of them nowadays, but the kids that I deal with a lot with Make-A-Wish are just phenomenal. I mean, it's a phenomenal program.
Yep.
And the experiences that I've had with those kids and their dads and even their brothers and sisters is just absolutely phenomenal. Without going into a lot of details on all those, it's just absolutely phenomenal. I can't tell you the experiences that I've got an opportunity to do with those kids.
Oh yeah.
And even with my own kids, honestly, I would be crazy for me not to at least mention my own kids.
For sure.
I got a son and 2 daughters that I absolutely love and adore. I mean, they fight like cats and dogs when I take them fishing. Of course they do. My 2 girls usually end up out fishing my son all the time. Oh. But just the experiences that I've had with them on the water, and it blows most of the other stuff that I could say in my life away. I guess probably the craziest experience that I've ever had personally is I have had back before I got this wonderful new Triton, and it was raining. This was actually up in Chautauqua, up in New York. I was fishing.
Okay.
My wife had backed me into the water, and it was raining all night long on the boat. So I pulled the plug. I didn't put the plug in, and I backed it off the trailer, and I'm running in, and I see the bilge kicking on. I'm trying to call her on the phone. She's already walking back with the trailer, and I'm like, so I just had to jump in, and it was a chilly fall morning. Jump in and put the plug in the boat just to stop the water from flowing in the boat. But that's probably one of my personal craziest stories. And now this wonderful new Triton comes with a little switch on there that you just reach back here and you just twist the switch, and it puts the plug right in. And I'm like, oh my gosh, why didn't they come up with that years ago? You know,
Really?
it's all on a cord, and you flip the switch, and it just pulls the plug right in. And I will tell you, there's so many issues with people not putting the plug in the boat. And I mean, good, bad, ugly. I've seen a lot of them. It's just crazy. But I think we've all probably at one time in our lives probably experienced that. Oh crap! I forgot to plug it.
Oh, 100%. I believe it. Knock on wood, it hasn't happened to me yet. But I'm pretty anal with my procedure.
Knock on wood, you know, it hasn't happened with me with a guest. But
God,
it would be so embarrassing from a guide standpoint, and looking back and going, oh no, and then so. But yeah, I mean, I would say that was probably one of my experiences. But I've seen it all. I've seen a lot of crazy stuff happening at the boat ramps and different things, with people putting boats on the trailers and taking them off. It's crazy. I encourage people to, it is tough to be patient and bite your tongue a lot on things. And I always try to encourage people to try to help them.
Definitely. Sure.
Probably the other craziest experiences is I tried to help this one lady that was drunk one time at a boat ramp. And I was like, hey, can you just move your boat back, or can I help you? She says, well, and she looked at me. She says, gosh damn it, and another effing person has to help me or do something for me. And she got really irate. And I asked her to move her boat back because they said no one can get your, a boat around there. And she was drunk, real drunk. And she started coming at me. I started going back to my truck. And I'm like,
exactly.
I don't want to do it.
I don't want to deal with this.
Luckily, Florida Fish and Wildlife was there, and he seen it happen. And he got out of the car, and he puts his hands up, and he says, whoa. He says, ma'am, if you touch that guy, we're going to have problems. He said, do what he asks you to do and just show some common courtesy. Yeah. I think that's a lot of things with people nowadays is people just need to be able to be patient with one another, but they also, in my opinion, they need to be able to be courteous to one another, because there's so many times that we're out there fishing and either these people they got a brand new boat, they haven't used it that much, or they're not, very good at getting it on and off the water. I think as anglers and, and stuff, the biggest thing we can do is offer to help, try to help people.
100% agree with that.
Obviously, with the situation that transpired out of that, it was kind of unique, but it definitely was not a really good experience. But that was another one that was like, even the FWC officers, like, he come over, he's like, "You okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, no problem, man." He said, "I was just trying to get her." He says, "I know people, it's tough."
That's how it is.
People try to be courteous, and if you need help, don't be afraid to ask for it.
Absolutely, absolutely. If you need it, for sure, help. Justin, this was absolutely awesome, dude. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being part of the show. Let's take an opportunity right now. If you want to give any shout outs and mention anybody that you're working with or anything, also let folks know where they can find you to check out any content that you're making, but also if they're looking at booking a trip and trying to plan for something, where they can do all that stuff and any tips that you may have.
So I highly recommend you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter. You can find me on all those social media outlets. I highly recommend people follow me on those, because you can actually see what people are catching during certain times of the year. And I'm not going to be dishonest with people. I'm going to tell you when the best times of the year to go are. I know everyone's down here at different times, but I will tell you, we got a lot of good guides down here that guide. So please feel free to reach out to me. My number is 407-865-0911. I'll be more than happy to talk with you, answer any questions you got. Like I said, I do love those phone calls, because the more people talk to me, it helps me to get a better feel for what they want to do, whether they just want to fish artificial, whether they want to fish live bait. You know, I always make my recommendations as a guide, but I want to see you guys see people have the best experience possible, because that's how my business grows. My business grows through that. So I highly encourage you to check me out on all those social media outlets. Please give me a follow. Doesn't hurt to just even give some likes so it shows up fresh in your feed. And I always encourage people, you know, I'm here to, if you have any questions at all. I mean, I got people that reach out to me and ask me about local fisheries, you know, and stuff that they fish at. I got a company, a bait company I work with out of Texas called Haig's Baits. They make some phenomenal baits. There's also a guide that guides specifically for them. We network a lot as guides.
Oh, no kidding.
I mean,
That's
the
cool.
biggest thing we want to see our clients doing is our guests and our clients having a phenomenal experience.
Yeah.
That way we that's how we stay in business. We're not down here to, obviously we want to see you catch the most and biggest fish. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
And so, but please, by all means, check me out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all that at Making Big Bass Memories. I enjoy being on the show, on your podcast, and I really appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Thank you, Justin, for being part of the show. This show is actually going to drop in a week from now. And in the meantime, if you have a picture of you holding an absolute giant, send it over to me because we'll use it for the artwork.
I got a couple for you.
I believe it. I believe it. Some big. You're the second angler in 2 weeks we've had from Florida, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah. Would you like me to send it to you on Instagram, or I'll just send it to you through Instagram? And then you can
that'll work for sure. That'll work perfect. Awesome, Justin. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you. You have yourself a good one. We'll talk soon. All right.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Anytime.
Right. Take care, buddy. Bye-bye. Ladies and gentlemen of the Jigs and Bigs audience, thank you for making it this far in the show. I know that we can be very long-winded. We like to give you guys a big chunk of weekly content to digest. And it's those interesting elements, like the interview with Justin, like the conversation we had about the Bassmaster entry fees for the Elite Series, like our week in review when we talked about catching our fucking PB smallmouth. My God, ladies and gentlemen. And I don't know if you saw in the pictures, but this fish has seen some shit. The dorsal fin was all kinds of jacked up.
Yeah.
Man, it was absolutely just a thing of beauty. Just a thing of beauty. I could get skunked the rest of this week, and I would still be a happy man. I hope I don't
say
get
that.
skunked.
Don't say that.
I know, but I would. I love big fish will carry me for such a long time. You know, like I had my God, this year has been amazing. It's absolutely been nuts. And I was having a conversation with Benny on the boat, and he was like, he's like, so what are you doing for electronics? Are you going to get into electronics? Are you going to, are you going to go bougie? Are you going to go kind of basic? And I was like, I'm kind of thinking about riding the middle and figuring it out. I got to talk with John this winter. We got to get the boat down there. So there's some trailer upgrades that he wants to do that I'm all about. We're talking travel for 2025. Is like not gonna. Well, it's actually I kind of have almost something going on every single month that I'm gonna try to stick to it. Hopefully everything works out. And most of these things I'm going to try to be doing a live podcast recording and some fishy trivia with some prizes and partnering with like local tackle shops. So hopefully 2025 I'm really hoping to really blossom and kind of take off. My YouTube channel, Joe, I started editing with a new platform.
How did you like it? We talked about it before. Do you like it?
I love it. I really do. I find it's easy enough to use, but very powerful. It's also like this last video I did, I kind of went really hard with it as far as testing out a bunch of features.
Sure.
So one of the things, my videos are very much like vlog oriented. Like it's sort of like take you through the entire experience, fishing, all the stuff that goes along with it. And there's a couple of things like especially in the windy conditions, like for the fishing, I need some wireless mics so I can get better audio. But there was some features that were pretty good. And I ran all this stuff to make some shorts and some reels. And started posting some of those. And you guys, there are some audio like vocal enhancing options. It's like a lot of AI features.
Oh, okay.
There's a noise reducer. And like, I mean, the wind was brutal. I was not facing the camera and it still picked up some of the stuff. Like, I feel like it did a good enough job of capturing that audio so that you could hear it. It wasn't fantastic. It wasn't like this.
Yeah.
I did a voiceover for the first time. And that was really nice because it allowed me to kind of talk over something else and give a little bit of a little bit more perspective to what was going on. This was actually specifically in the video. I did the voiceover over a fish catch explaining that dude that fell in the water and what had happened. I actually went back over the footage. I do have footage of him falling off the boat.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I do. I'm going to go and I'm going to cut something together and put something there because I have footage of him falling off the boat and footage. I was like, holy fucking shit. And then there's another feature where you can edit by a transcript of the audio. So if you're editing a talking head, you can cut out a bunch of stuff. Well, I'm really interested on the last talking head. I let AI do the whole thing. And I cut out like any pauses. The only thing I didn't cut out was any repetition because sometimes you'll use the word like jig or something in a different context, like jigging a bait and then, throwing a jig. And it can cut that shit out thinking it's repetition and it's not. So I left that stuff in there and it did a pretty good job. It's a little bit dicey. Like there's a lot of quick cuts back and forth, but I layered a bunch of transitions over them to try to smooth it out a little bit. I think it's all right. I think it gets the point across. I think it shortens the video. I easily could have edited that video to like a 45-minute video. And I feel like it's way too long. Way too long. I got it down to 25 minutes. I was like, holy shit. And yeah, it was pretty slick. There's a lot of features in there that are pretty cool. I used this last video as a way to kind of test some things out. Now I have an idea of what I like. I did send a link out to a bunch of people to give some feedback.
Yeah.
I love and hate doing that. Like, because I love doing that because I feel like, it's a great way to get somebody to get some eyes on something and give some feedback about everything. But I do feel like to a point, everybody kind of kisses your ass.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I'm like, all right, so there was nothing you thought that was like, I should change? Okay, all right, good to know. And, so a lot of it, like, I'll just kind of take with a grain of salt and then reevaluate, like, check. I've watched the video like 5 times, but I am a big fan of this software. And for those wondering, it's CapCut.
Yeah.
It's CapCut. It's the same app you use on your phone. I didn't even know that there was a desktop version.
I didn't either. I'm actually looking at it right now.
The pro features are definitely worth it, but you can go with the free stuff and use quite a bit.
I think I have pro on mobile already. So
you probably do. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
I was like, and I've used CapCut previously to make reels and shorts and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's awesome, but I'm really, really into the version that is on the desktop. It's really good.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm probably gonna bring my cameras out today. If I go to Congamon Jr., I can't take the drone, and it's gonna be windy as shit anyway. I really don't like flying the drone.
Yeah, it can get sketchy.
That's why on that Sunday, that's why I had it with me, and I was like, we'll see how these gusts are.
Yeah,
I was like, we got fucking white caps and shit. I'm like, I'm not losing this thing.
Yeah.
Oh, but good stuff, man. What a great show.
Yeah, man.
Really, really good show.
Good one.
You guys go ahead and reach out to us. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, all that kind of stuff. If you want to become a jig head, jigsandbigs.com. If you're following us over on Instagram, you can go to our link tree. All of these links are right in there. That's a link in bio. Go ahead, check that out. We will have ticket sales starting for the Rhode Island Pizza Party once we confirm our venue and start to get some sponsors lined up. And Joe, do you have anything that you want to mention before we wrap this sucker?
I actually have one thing. I just got a little bit of breaking news texted to me.
Okay.
by the time this comes out, it'll only be you'll only have a day to do it. But apparently, Doomsday Rods is doing a Veterans Day sale from now until the 12th, where it's 35% off rods, and if you're a veteran, it's 45%. So
holy fuck,
yeah, that's a huge. So if you're looking to save some money, get a couple rods, go check them out.
Veterans Day sales are out there. Go ahead and in fact, I'll be on Monday. I'm going to be doing some appliance shopping with the wife.
Hell yeah.
You know, and Sean the Fisherman had said to me, he had heard on the podcast, I was talking about it last week, and he goes, wait a minute, you spent your later teenage years working in an appliance store, and your wife doesn't trust you enough to go out and purchase a microwave? And I was like...
Absolutely right, Sean. Absolutely right.
That's great.
Not that I'm an expert or anything, but, yeah. Like, that's the way it was. But it is what it is, guys. Thank you so much for checking out the show. Remember, each and every week we have a brand new episode here for you on your favorite podcast platform for absolutely free. Go ahead and check out the show. If you love the show, please share it with your friends. Introduce them to the Jigs and Bigs circle, the family. We really are a community over here. We're unique anglers from all different sort of places in the community, and we all kind of come together on our love for shitting in the woods and eating really good food. And that's kind of really that's what life's all about. It really is. As always, have yourselves a great week. Share those fishy pics if you're getting out there like we are. Share those fishy pics and tag us in your content so that we can like, comment, save, share, all that stuff to try to give you guys a little bit of visibility for getting out there and just getting on them. And that's really all we can ask for. You guys have yourself a great week. We'll see you in 7 days with more Jigs and Bigs goodness. It's like we always say.
Tits and ass, smoke some grass.